Somebody else would have to ask.
What's up?
Yeah, when we're doing the agenda approval. let's move it up.
Yeah. Just
All right. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Clerk Smith, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon,
present.
Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Sweet,
Present.
Councilmember Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember D Simmons, Councilmember J Simmons, Councilmember King. With 4 present, we have quorum.
Move to excuse council persons Simmons, King, and Simmons. Sounds like one of them's coming.
Yeah, they're right there.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, please stand as you're able for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay. I will entertain minutes.
Here now.
Just don't do
that. Yeah, just put that.
Okay.
Saying the first.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. We're not gonna move public comment up since they're here, but that one.
I move to approve the agenda.
Oh, and then Councilmember Sweet had an adjustment?
Yes.
Oh.
I'd like to make a motion to move resolution 2023-216 and 217, so resolutions A and B to immediately following public comment.
All right, so that is to move our first 2 resolutions, 216 and 17 after public comment. Are there any other changes or updates to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, thank you. Before we have a motion, I'll have Mr. Barr give an introduction. Good evening.
Council.
Good evening.
I'd like to introduce Brandon Barker. Barker, can you step forward, please? Barker is an attorney that's going to join our firm of counsel. He's with the town of McKinney firm in Ann Arbor. His resume is attached to the agenda. He has a very extensive experience in. He will come up on the agenda later.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, welcome. No problem, thank you. All right, if someone from council could make a motion for us to go into closed session
I moved for us to go into closed session.
with the MCL code, please.
I'm sorry, with MCL 15.26A, in parentheses D, to consider the purchase of property.
It's been moved and supported. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Okay.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion carried.
Sorry, we're gonna go downstairs. Thank you. All right. So, yes, thank you all so much for being patient with us as we were in closed session. We will now move to public comment. So I'll start with the list. Oh, sorry. Is there a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, this is our opportunity for public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to address council. I will start with those on the list, and then we'll move to those in the audience and then on Zoom. And so the first is Blaine Coleman. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. This resolution, in solidarity with the Palestinian people, is wonderful, and it's way overdue. And it echoes the resolution the city of Richmond just passed quite recently, very similar resolution for Palestinian human rights, recognizing that it's not good to bomb thousands of Palestinians to death, especially with U.S. weapons and U.S. military aid. Now, the Richmond resolution had a sentence in it that would be nice to add to this resolution. I'll read it to you. Be it further resolved that the city of Richmond opposes all existing and any future military aid to Israel. Once again, Be it further resolved that the city of Richmond opposes all existing and any future military aid to Israel. All you have to do is stick in the word Ypsilanti instead of Richmond and bingo, you're done. I think that adds more bite to it, and I'll tell you why. I'm old enough to remember Israel bombing 100,000 people out of their homes in Lebanon. Then there was a ceasefire, and then they did it again. It's another ceasefire. They did it again. And you may remember in the audience during the last 20 years, Israel would bomb the Gaza Strip. There'd be a ceasefire. There'd be marches demanding a ceasefire. There'd be a ceasefire. And then they would start bombing again. So I think it's good that this resolution says ceasefire. It is desperately needed. But I think that it's a bit limited because the ceasefire is going to last a little while and then Israel will start bombing again. But if you cut off the military aid to Israel, that is a very hard slap on the wrist that says, no, we don't want to give military aid to constant massacres of the Palestinian people. No. So I do hope you'll find it in your heart to add that one sentence that does come from the Richmond City Council resolution. I've emailed it to one council member who I had an email address for, just to add in, we're against military aid to Israel, however you want to slice it. I sent it to Council Member Simmons because I had spoken to her briefly. So hopefully it can get pasted in. Now, I don't want to beat that thing to death, but I think it's important. It adds bite to the resolution. It means that you're, serious. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the premier peace and justice outfit in this area, the ICPJ, Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, has recently issued a statement which includes opposition to military aid to Israel. So I think that adds extra weight and heft to the need to oppose military aid to Israel. That's basically what I wanted to say, and I know it's late, so I better get off this mic.
Thank you. Next, we have Muskin. Can you say your last name for me? Thank you. No problem. Good evening.
Hello, Ypsilanti, I love you. Sadly, I live in Ann Arbor, and this is a fantastic crowd. I am thankful to be here. Thanks, Mayor Brown and members of the council. And I want to say the resolution you have is fantastic. And I also want to reiterate what Blaine just said, which is don't give them guns. And this is the words of a Gazan woman who was on Twitter. And she said, yeah, we need ceasefire now, but don't give them guns. Now, you have to realize all these tons and tons of bombs that are coming down on heads of Gazans are made in the United States, given to Israel, just, to throw it at anyone. And I have actual colleagues in Gaza right now with whom I don't even know if we can continue to work and do our research. I'm an environmental health and public health researcher. And so I'm telling you, we must stop giving them stuff. And that's all I wanted to say. Please add a sentence that says no more military aid to Israel. And that would make a huge difference globally and for our own humanity. I mean, what's happening in Gaza is just telling us that international humanitarian law means nothing. It means nothing. They can walk into some place and bomb the most densely populated refugee camp, and they can walk out there and bomb hospitals. They can do it. They can do it at a whim. And the United States president says, yay, go for it. I mean, imagine what Americans look like in the eyes of the world. Not very good. But if we do this, if we say cut off the military aid to them, that'll rescue some of the damage. And I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. Thanks, Ypsilanti.
Thank you. Mark Hergott, good evening.
Evening, Mark Hergott, 111 Miles Street. The ICPJ. You know anything about them, Des? Damn. South Mansfield. Listen, Bonnie's done a great job. She's looked at all of the factors. Her overarching ethical guidelines is to look at the good for the entire community. And I'm sure that the property is going to fill many, if not all, of the requirements for the DPW for many, many years. You can't cut Brian Jones' chance a check. You just can't. The appearance of impropriety is impropriety. You just can't cut Brian Jones' chance a check. He was a former council member. I'm sure he's a private citizen right now. It's not going to look good. And if you want to go to Ann Arbor, if you want to go to Lansing, if you want to go to Washington, you're just not going to cut Brian Jones' chance a check. It's just not politically feasible. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Ed Carisno, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm here to express my concern on two issues. What was once 580 South Mansfield is now 599 South Mansfield, and the impact of that purchase upon the city's fund balance. Now, let me begin by saying that I am not against relocating the DPW facility. I just don't think the purchase of what was $2,950,000, now $3.7 million, is the best way to go. And I'm also disappointed in the lack of transparency and public discussion regarding the urgency of this particular purchase. In regards to the fund balance, the city, according to its last CAFR, comprehensive annual financial report, had a fund balance of $10 million, and that was in fiscal year 21-22. $4 million of that was designated for expenses that would be incurred and therefore reserved. 5.2 or 3 million of that, the remainder, was discretionary and up to you, the city council, to use at your discretion. You're spending a deficit budget for fiscal year 23-24 in the amount of, I think, $2.7 million. And if you proceed with this purchase, and I'm assuming you're going to finance it, you're still going to incur an annual cost for financing charges. You're going to incur a cost for moving and relocating the DPW there and making whatever improvements are necessary for the DPW to locate at that location. Additionally, you're taking a tax-paying property off the roll. So the impact of that, those costs could be severe. And remember, according to the general accepted accounting principles, 10 to 15% of the revenues of the general fund should be held in reserve for emergencies, a fund balance, which would equate to, based upon this year's general fund, $2.4 million. So I hope you seriously can consider these financial issues, and I strongly urge you to reconsider purchasing this property until a public discussion could be held and a decision made in the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Layton. Pat Layton. Good evening.
I also am going to start my timer because I'm a visual person. So sorry. Okay. Hello, I'm Kat Layton. I'm on Ward 3. So I looked through the agenda packet that was published on the website for today's meeting, and I saw that there was a resolution 2023-213 that would approve ordinance 1421 to remove Open Meeting Act's requirements from the IPSI Police Advisory Commission. And for those who don't know, which is totally okay because people don't just casually Google random laws like this, the Attorney State General says that Open Meetings Act strengthens the right of all Michigan residents to know what's going on in a government body by shedding light on the official acts of those bodies and enhancing the ability for us to be transparent and accountable to knowing what's going on. And so even though the Police Advisory Commission doesn't necessarily make the end decision per se, it does review important investigatory hearings and complaints involving Ypsi's Police Department. So I don't think this aligns with public transparency on government matters. And unless City Council can justify how these bodies, regulations that y'all have to approve today are not even kind of similar to OMA, but also can kind of exist already under, there's no point of actually ridding OMA. And so I heard through October, this is not even enough time to talk in public comment, and y'all took 2.5 hours for.
Thank you. Hayden Pendergrass. Good evening.
For those who wanted to know, my name is Hayden Pendergrass. I also stand to speak in opposition to Resolution 2023-213. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Open Meetings Act exists for a reason. And I know it's hard. I know it creates onerous burdens on the staff to follow the letter of the law. I get that. But the Michigan legislature passed that statute for a reason. It's so that things like Google Docs among certain members of commissions don't exist, don't happen in private. It's so that every decision, every discussion is in the public sphere. And that's the purpose of the act. That's why it is so burdensome, right? That's the point. And so to remove the Open Meetings Act from the requirements of this commission, let alone the ones that have already been removed or don't have it as part of their founding rules, I think it's a real mistake. As my fellow citizen said, the appearance of impropriety is impropriety. You're essentially saying the Opens Meeting Act, we don't need it. Let's do it in the dark. Let's do it in closed, smoke-filled rooms. I know that's really not the intent, or at least you don't believe that's the intent of it, but it doesn't give access to the citizens of Ypsilanti. It doesn't support transparency. You know, the rules are there for a reason, and I think we should follow them. It's plain and simple. I know that these commissions are primarily comprised of volunteers, that have day jobs, and so to follow the rules with respect to quorum, with respect to noticing, with respect to publishing minutes, with respect to recording electronically, it's onerous. I get it, but that's the job of city government, is to play by the rules, to be transparent. That's what we pay you for, right? It's to follow the rules that the Michigan legislature said. If a public body is going to do what, to exercise its governmental proprietary functions, that includes advising the city council on what to do, and with respect to sustainability, with respect to the police, with respect to any of the mandates of those commissions, that's what you have to do. And so, frankly, I understand that, the design of this is to come up with city, designed procedures and policies to ensure transparency, but they have those have pitfalls in and of themselves. And that's why the Open Meetings Act is written the way it's written. And so, frankly, I think the city council should reconsider removing the Open Meetings Act requirements from this commission, and frankly, all the other ones, because to take it from the Washington Post, democracy dies in the darkness. And this is on that path. And that's why I think the city should reconsider.
Thank you. Michael Appel? Wait. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Sigrid Melvin? Sigrid here? Is she left? Okay. Jennifer Goulet? Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Jennifer Goulet, 2136 Collegewood Street. I'm here tonight with concern and urging opposition for the purchase of the 599 South Mansfield property, which appears to be now a new address, changed just today. at an inflated price for a building that requires what appears to be significant additional work to accommodate our DPS needs, together with remediation costs for transitioning the current site to new uses. It's my understanding that this current property under consideration sold just a year ago in October 22 for 1.1 million, but we're looking at a purchase price of 3.9 million tonight, best as I know. I'm concerned that our dear city of Ypsilanti does not have the funds to proceed with this obligation as a cash sale, much less as a finance sale. Nor is our city in the financial condition today to withstand the impact of removing this site from the tax rolls. I'm even more concerned for the apparent lack of transparency of sharing of information about this proposal, which to the public feels that this came up very quickly. There was a closed meeting canceled. There has not been information. Does not appear that due diligence, or at least the public has not had access to the due diligence, which would have included significant comprehensive analysis, not only of these two sites in question, but of all other alternatives, including looking at what the cost would be for the current site to bring it up to what we know our DPS team needs and our city needs, partnerships, collaborations with our other municipal partners in the county. And I'm concerned that the 5-day inspection period, which is included in the proposed purchase agreement, is insufficient for the inspections required for this kind of an investment requirement, not the least of which is the environmental assessments, which would be required and would be prudent to conduct if the city is taking on the liability of this purchase. I absolutely also stand here as a former city staff member in supporting our DPS. I'm a city resident. I want our DPS staff and team and our city residents to have a facility for this critical service team that they deserve and that we deserve, and that it's safe and it provides for the needs. But we need to have comprehensive and transparent analysis, community dialogue and engagement. And it would seem that this should not be a decision that should be rushed this evening. Thank you.
Bill Donovan. Good evening.
My name's Phil Donovan. I'm one of the owners of World of Rocks at 32 North Huron. A month ago, myself and several other business owners in the downtown community came to speak about the massive weekend closures that were thrust upon us at the last moment. We were heartfelt and we were honest, and several of us did cry. We pleaded for you to fight back against this crippling construction scheduling. We asked that you put up better signage for construction detours and closures. We also asked to be updated on how this ongoing construction will be scheduled around the holidays. And since then, a lot has changed. We've lost at least 2 more businesses. We have another road closure shutting down a whole street for several weeks. Construction is now around 8 months and still going. Regarding defending our downtown, there has been nothing from our leadership but shrugging of shoulders and pointing the blame elsewhere in circles. During the weekend closures, we actually had less signage about the detours and closed streets. We also have had zero communication regarding how much more construction will occur during the holiday season. On my way here today, I grabbed one of these from one of the meters over on Michigan Ave. It says no parking, big red letters. It was supposed to come down 10:15. It is now, 11:07? Big, red, no parking. It is impossible that in the 4 square miles of Ypsilanti, in these last 3 weeks, none of you drove by this. No one saw it. It's impossible that our police didn't notice these once on their patrol. It's the very smallest thing that you could do to help us, and you refused. So I am asking for one of you, any of you, to take the initiative on this. Inform us about what closures are coming these next few important weeks. And if you aren't willing to do that, at least please don't actively make this harder for us. Your job is to represent and lead this community. We shouldn't have to keep coming here begging you to do the bare minimum that requires. So instead of going home and mentally passing this blame to anyone but yourselves, think about how many Ipsy businesses you love that have closed. Think about how many will close before our next meeting, and think about how little it would take for you to help us to survive. And I'll be leaving this with you guys because we're not tossing out your trash.
Thank you. Okay. L. Brown or Braun? L. Brown? Oh, Louisa. Okay. Hi. Good evening. Okay. Alessar Younglove. Good evening. And if I mispronounce your name, can you say it again, please?
Elisar Younglove is correct. Thank you. I'm here today to discuss the affirmed support and solidarity with the Palestinian people. The U.S. is the largest supplier of military aid to Israel, with around $130 billion since its funding, and U.S. politicians have always watered down coverage of and action against this genocide. I stand against military aid to Israel. I believe Ypsilanti must state and show their support and solidarity with the Palestinian people. We cannot allow our outrage to be overshadowed by pro-Israeli individuals in Southeast Michigan. For example, President Ono from the University of Michigan, who is an active participant in the erasure of the Palestinian identity and their resistance to oppression. I believe that we need to add, we are against military aid to Israel to the proposed statement, and it is our moral responsibility to offer this support and stop aiding Israel in their genocide.
Thank you. All right. Gray Weinstein. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Gray Weinstein, and I live on West Cross Street. I am also here to affirm my support for passing this statement in solidarity with the people of Palestine. I am here as an Ypsi resident and a Jewish person to show my solidarity with the people of Palestine and affirm that I am not made safer as a Jew by the genocide of innocent people. I am not made safer as a Jew by the mass expulsion of people from their homeland. And I have never been made safer as a Jewish person by the existence of a genocidal white ethno-state. I would also like to state my support for adding a provision, a measure to the provision that affirms calling on the United States to stop sending support to the state of Israel as one of the biggest recipients of United States aid and the only country in the world that does not have to report how they are using the money that the United States gives them. Israel uses that money and has been using that money for decades to demolish people's homes long before this genocide started. And then lastly, I also would like to state my opposition to Resolution 2023-213, simply because I think that we need more transparency and more oversight of the cops, not less.
Thank you. Amber Fellows. Good evening.
Hello, council. So I feel like this might be the most consensus I've heard from an audience in years on several different issues. At least I'm finding a lot of consensus, so that feels nice. So my suggestion, I was going to talk about a a few things, but I want to spend more time on the Palestinian resolution. So I might just ask you to pull out from the consent agenda item D, because it warrants more discussion. I understand it's on second reading, but sometimes people don't find out until second reading, so it doesn't really matter. So we need to pull that out and put it into a future agenda so more people can know the intent behind this and to fully discuss it. I understand that there was some rules to preserve some of the intent of OMA drafted, but I think more people need to know about this. So please pull that out of the consent agenda, as well as under resolutions, pull out A and B so people can talk more about the purchase of 599 South Mansfield, because there's also consensus around that. So we need another agenda, another meeting to organize around that while we're getting our thoughts together. Okay, so I am really pleased about the resolution for Palestine. We are showing up here, and I think we are in common cause in recognizing the humanity of people across the world, and in speaking out against the collective suffering of Palestinians enduring apartheid genocide, and especially when our senators are advocating against the will of the public. Almost 70% of US citizens want a ceasefire now. It is particularly our duty as citizens and you as representatives of this country to speak up when it is our tax dollars being used to underwrite relentless carpet bombing of civilians, bombs that have killed more than 10,000 so far and rising, half of them children. This action and resolution is a moral duty, but it's also one in which we could mean many more lives spared of this bombing, and if we are successful in our advocacy. So that is meaningful to me and hopefully to all of us, that, being here, being in this part of the world, our voice are outsizedly loud and powerful. And so we should use it to steer the course of history and save lives. Richmond, California City Council has done this. This is what this resolution is based off of. Providence, Rhode Island Council has also done it. And now it is our turn in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And I do think our city in particular shares common cause on a more fundamental level, in that we have this history of economic and racialized segregation in Ypsilanti. We too have a 10-year mortality gap between our zip codes in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, which is the same for Palestinians and Israelis. So there is actually a lot of comparison between our situations. Thank you for bringing ground up pressure for Debbie Stabenow, Dingle, and Gary Peters.
Rena Pang. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, my name is Rena. I live on North Adams Street. I thank you all for including in today's meeting the resolution 2023-222. I urge the City Council to vote yes, and I additionally support amending the resolution to include an explicit end to future military aid for Israel. A genocide continues to unfurl in the Gaza Strip thanks to the direct support of the United States. Much has been said in the comments before me, but I want for a moment to point to the UN's IASC statement, who yesterday put out an open letter calling for a ceasefire, citing multiple humanitarian crises erupting all at once thanks to the destruction of cultural institutions, hospitals, stores, residences, places of worship, and even UN aid worker casualties. To quote from their letter, "We need an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. It's been 30 days. Enough is enough. This must stop now." I know you are all city council members, and this may seem far-fetched that we might have an impact on the shipments of military weaponry to Israel, but your voice matters. We have to do everything that we can to exert pressure on our political leaders and make it clear to the citizens of the world that IPSI stands by the model that lies behind your seats there. We are running out of time to save lives. We have a responsibility to call upon our leaders and end this brutality. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Kimry. Okay, good evening.
Hello. My name is Renee Kimry. I'm an Ypsilanti resident,
and I strongly urge the City Council to pass the resolution and declare solidarity with Palestine and demand an immediate ceasefire. I also want to echo the same claim, or the same additional plank calling for an end to U.S. military aid of Israel. It is unconscionable that the United States provides a level of military, financial, and political support to the genocidal actions of Israel, both in Gaza and in the rest of Palestine. I urge the City Council to use its power and influence to speak out against the ongoing violence and crimes against humanity, and to adopt the proposed revisions condemning military aid to Israel. I would also like to speak about the importance of not removing the Open Meeting Act requirements from the Police Accountability or Police Advisory Commission. Transparency and democratic participation in city governance is the utmost importance, and this is even more crucial when the topic is holding police accountable to the public. I think it is a betrayal of the purpose of these commissions and of the purpose of city government in general to strip away transparency in the name of convenience and so-called flexibility. I would also like to echo the demand that the other commissions and boards that have had their OMA requirements removed have those reinstated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Julia Behe. Good evening.
Get it right. Thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Behe. I live at Town Center Place. I'm a commissioner of the Sustainability Commission. And I agree with the comments that were made about the closed session. I think it's really wrong how things like that get handled. We've been working for the last 5-6 years here in Ypsilanti to bring our level up of governance up from like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior levels. And I really don't think that we're there yet. We need to stop having things be old school closed sessions. We need more open transparency and accountability. So I want to speak to the OMA situation having to do with the commissions. I spoke with my chair tonight, Beth Gibbons, and whereas, we on the Sustainability Commission, we're about forward movement. So we don't care about whether or not, these things have already affected our commission. But as a citizen, not about my standing on the Sustainability Commission, I'm here to also say, I do not think we should have a police advisory commission that does not have major transparency and accountability, because every single state, every single community in our country has a problem with racialized violence. Every single community in our country has a problem with sexualized violence. Every single community in our country has a problem with economic violence. I want more transparency, more accountability, and it terrifies me that we're even discussing this. I just ran into one of my original sexual offenders at Kroger's the other day, and he was trying to pick me up. He's 80 years old now. He has no clue that he was my coach in high school. Why do I have to deal with this? He's not even on the sex offender list, which I found out in the last few days. It is nuts how we will even remotely think of having less accountability and less transparency. We need to grow up politically. I want to also agree with not only the resolution for Palestine, ceasefire in Palestine, but definitely I want to end military aid to Israel. Israel has health care for its citizens and we don't. Why are we giving them money to kill people when I can't even get my teeth fixed? This is crazy. Got to stop. Please don't vote. Please do the support. We need to show up as one of the cities in Michigan that supports the ceasefire, but do please add in the sentence about no more military aid. I want universal health care before I die. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Kinney. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Chloe Gray. I'll be taking Shelby Kinney's spot. They're my partner and they accidentally signed the sheet. So I really appreciate everyone that has come up here with organized statements tonight. I am going to speak from a different place. My father, as a third grader, had to drop out of school And dinner table conversations since I was a child have always revolved around what Israel's arm in the Middle East has done to destabilize my family's home country of Lebanon. My father having to drop out of school to take dynamite into the Mediterranean Sea to blow up fish so that he could feed his family as an 8-year-old and sell those fish to provide some kind of income for his family. He tells me on a regular basis, I watched throats get slit in front of me as a boy in the streets. Imagine our third graders at Wise Elementary having to watch people get their throats slit in front of them. Imagine them having their education ripped from them due to destabilization that Israel has placed upon them. He had to move to this country for the American dream because America fucked his country and he couldn't live there anymore. He couldn't have the Lebanese dream, so he had to come here to find stabilization for his children and his family. Children of immigrants, we vote, and we are not going to forget. You asked us not to forget on 9/11. You didn't let us forget of our Middle Eastern heritage while you called us terrorists and animals as children. We are not going to forget if you do not call for a ceasefire in Israel. I voted for a lot of you, and I won't be doing it again. I want to be very clear. It is your job to do all you can to end this genocide so that more third graders don't have to watch throats get slit in front of them in the streets of their village. Period. Moving on. Police Transparency Commission. I am asking for more transparency. I, like many here, can't even believe that we are asking, or that there is contemplation about having closed doors surrounding police accountability, where this money is getting used. That is all. We shouldn't have to request a Freedom of Information Act to get this information. Dialogue is very important. A few years ago, if it weren't for recorded meetings, how would we have caught Beth Bashir in these like racist statements to get her out of office? Dialogue, nuance, it is all very important. And you're talking about not recording these meetings anymore or having detailed notes. We will not forget.
Thank you. Eugenia Quintanilla?
Hi, my name is Eugenia Quintanilla. I live on Summit. I'm here to also voice my support for the resolution and also the resolution to call for a Palestinian just humanity and ceasefire in Palestine, but specifically to support to just stop arming Israel altogether. Yeah, I think Chloe put it best. I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about the importance of bureaucratic burdens upon people who are serving on police advisory committees and all of us today, to remove accountability from bodies that are supposed to serve as just like a connection between the public and as what is going on in government is frankly irresponsible and unfair. I shouldn't have to, like Kat was saying earlier, go through Google and try to search and decode what the minutes are saying. There needs to be more transparency and clearer language. And I'd like a better reasoning for why the OMA is being removed altogether. Yeah, I will cede the rest of my time to other speakers. But again, political accountability is really important. And I don't want it to be the case that this is a precedent set for the city to where in the future, it is normal and fine to get rid of accountability measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Russell and Deverthabal. I know the first name is Russell. Deverteval. No? Okay. Veronica Hargenrader. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Hargenrader. I live at 2592 Eagle Circle, Unit 1. I didn't really plan on speaking tonight. I didn't really plan on coming tonight until I found out that there was going to be a purchase of 599 South Mansfield. I feel that there has not been enough public transparency about the decision. I do not think that you should make a decision tonight. I think that you should move to have more discussion. I do support all the Palestinian aid and ceasing military aid to Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Farmer. Good evening.
Good evening, Cheryl Farmer, 214 North Huron Street. First, I'd like to ask that the item D be removed from the consent agenda so that you can each vote on it, because there's a lot of concern in the room about reducing transparency and the Open Meeting Act requirements. And then the reason I came down was to ask that you reject the proposed purchase of what was 580 Mansfield and suddenly has been transformed into 599 Mansfield. So I'd like to review with you the first three of the 5 ethical principles for the government of the city of Ypsilanti as stated at the very beginning of our city charter. First, public servants should treat public office as a public trust, using the powers and resources of public office only to advance public interests, not to attain personal benefits or pursue any private interest incompatible with the public good. So how would it be in the public interest to buy 599 Mansfield for $279 per square foot when a comparable property at 663 Mansfield was purchased at less than half that price, $58 a square foot, just last year? Second principle, public servants should employ independent, objective judgment in performing their duties, deciding all matters on the merits, free from conflicts of interest and apparent improper influences. There appears to be a conflict of interest when your former council colleague and friend Brian Jones-Chance is asked to represent the city as the buying real estate agent in this sale. The average real estate commission in Michigan this past year, 5.65%, which on a sale of 3.9 million would be over $220,000. Not a bad day's work, even if he has to share it. Third, public servants should assure that government is conducted openly, efficiently, equitably, honorably, in a manner that permits the citizenry to make informed judgments and hold government officials accountable. This means getting your constituents a correct agenda 24 hours or more ahead of the meeting and not switching property addresses at the last minute. You can always amend the agenda together at the council table if you need to do that. But this all seemed to happen in the dark. The open part of this ethical principle is not only aspirational, but also a legal requirement in Michigan. I hope Mr. Barr has made you all aware of the requirements of the Open Meetings Act, prohibiting discussion of pending legislation by a majority of council outside of public view. Specifically, it's expected that you discuss these matters in good faith at the council table. It's illegal for a majority on council to decide policy before the meeting happens. A good faith discussion also involves consideration of the views of the citizens that you swore to represent. So in closing, I hope that each of you will consider all the pros and cons and reject this proposed purchase at 559, 599, whatever the new address is on Mansfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Gianna Powers. Gianna Powers, good evening.
Hello, my name's Gianna Powers. I'd like to just switch gears real quick. We need shelter in this Ypsilanti. We need housing. We will need it tomorrow. We need it today. We'll need it next year. And I'm saying this from personal experience of being homeless this winter. We need housing. Figure it out. There's money. Just get it done, please.
Thank you. Josh McCready? Grady? Good evening. Hi.
Mayor Council. I live at 411 North Huron Street, just south of where the DW Department of Public Works is. In addition to the other people's comments about, oh, gotta raise it up, sorry. Yeah, so in addition to the other public comments about the haste of the decision around purchasing 599 Mansfield, I really would like more information or just understanding notice of what will happen with the old Department of Public Works site. I would hate to see it go vacant for a number of years without, just become blight. So that's an additional concern. Yeah, I appreciate the other people's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Those are the names that I had signed up. So if there's anyone in the audience, Brian, good evening.
My God, what's up? I've been waiting to see you all for so long. Hey, so my name is Brian Gallagher. I live in the gerrymandered part of Ward 1. And isn't this such a great bonding experience, everyone? We got Amber and Cheryl Farmer agreeing. That's wild. So okay, yeah, so many things to talk about. I want to start I'm gonna get serious for a second. I am the grandchild of Holocaust refugees. And I never met my grandparents. They died in the late 80s. They, before I was born, but I don't really know what they would think about what's going on right now, but I can't believe in my heart that at least my grandmother, who apparently was cool, would be in favor of the state of Israel doing what it's doing. And so I want to just full-throatedly say that you should pass that resolution, that the people of Palestine should be free, and that I fully support adding the line to end military aid. People have outlined it before. It's pretty wild. Moving on, the thing about the Open Meetings Act, I'm really surprised to hear that this has been happening. So the ethics board doesn't have a quorum. I think the ethics board would be a nice thing to be up and running right now, especially with the whole Brian Jones Chance thing, where did he go, by the way? Oh, he's here. Oh, cool. I think this is within the purview. I mean, the ethics board has the charge to not only look into the ethics code, but also to do like exploratory measures into what should be happening in the city. We have been seeing a year-over-year disintegration of sort of like the ethics of the city. And I do think a lot of it started with the decommissioning effort of Beth Bashert. Since then, it seems like the commissions have not been as strong. And I think we need to get our shit together, really. The $4 million for this property seems ridiculous. I haven't heard about it. I wish I had. What else? Oh yeah, police oversight. Is it true? Is the police trying to build like 4 outposts or whatever? That's incorrect. Okay, well, it'd be good is if we had transparency on all that. So I hope for that. And in my last 10 seconds, I also want to say, Steve's giving me a face. In the last 10 seconds, I want to say, I hope you also look at what's happening in the county prosecution department, because the county prosecutor, Ellie Savitt, seems to be taking a hard right turn away from his campaign promises. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Tucson. Good evening.
Nothing for the Palestinian people. But let me tell y'all something. Listen to me real good. You're going to get your resolution. Because none of these council folks up here have a heart of stone. So your resolution, you're gonna get it. But we still waiting on ours. We still waiting on our resolution. We waiting on that. Now, let's get down to what I'm here for. I'm here opposing the purchase that we are about to do. I've seen the lightning flash for 35 years. Ed Charisma was here when the lightning was flashing. Cheryl Farmer, she was here when the lightning was flashing. I've seen it flash for 35 years. And a lot of those lightning bolts hurt the city, hurt it real bad. Now listen to the old man, and I'm gonna sit down. There's an old story about this farmer, and he had a helper. They were herding cattle. And the young boy says, let's run down. There's one astray. Let's run down and get him and corral him. But the old experienced farmer says, no, son. He said, why don't we just take our time and walk down and we can corral all of them. So I said to you, council folk, take your time, table this issue, and table a lot of these issues. That gets the pressure off of y'all when you table stuff. Because you know what? People, when you put things right in people's face today, they don't take to that very well. Because transparency is what they're looking for. So I ask all of y'all to table this issue until we can travel other avenues to make it better for the taxpayers, because the taxpayers are the ones that's going to be hurting. Palestinian people, my heart is with you, because you know what? We Black folks been there. All right.
Thank you. Is there anyone else sitting in the audience who would like to address council? You're shaking your head no. Steve Pierce, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Pierce and I live at 118 South Washington. And I'm here this evening to ask you to please not even consider the purchase of the property at 599 South Mansfield. There are, anytime that decisions are rushed, anytime that we are told that this is urgent and that we must do this now, or we will never be able to recover from this, and you find out that the address has changed after the packet was sent out on Friday, and find out in closed session tonight more details about this project, which none of that has been shared with the rest of the public. And then to have a single vote tonight to spend and commit the city to nearly $5 million. And the reason why it's not $3.7 million, which, as was always pointed out, is 3.2 times more than what this property sold for last year. It is 4 times more than any of the other properties that sold in on South Mansfield. A number of those properties have all turned over in the last year. Across the street, I believe the address is 582. It sold for about $440,000, about $55 a square foot. Somebody should do the math, because the math on this project, the one you were thinking about buying, was $185 a square foot. This one's like $250 a square foot for this property. It's an extraordinary amount of money. You can build a brand new building for half of what you're spending on this property, and you can locate it at the DPW property. You can build a brand new building and not take something off the tax rolls. In the rush to try to make this decision, you're not going to consider other alternatives that could save us money. There is no doubt that we need to improve the working conditions at the DPW. I've been around here for a while. It's hard for me to still say DPS, the DPS yard, but we can. And if it is so bad that they can't work there right now, then simply go to the schools and say, we need to borrow some classrooms for a little bit of time because they have extra classrooms right now. And for no charge, you could move folks in there. They have internet, they have bathrooms, they have meeting space. There isn't a place where they don't have to be outside to have a meeting. And they don't have to use a porta-john. We can do better. I'm asking you to please do better. Regarding the Freedom of Information Act, the state of Michigan has one of the poorest grades for FOIA in all of the country. This would not be the time to actually limit openness in government. And what has happened with 599 is clearly why we need more transparent government. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other members in the audience physically who would like to address council? Aaron, is there anybody online?
So we'll get to the folks with their hands raised. If you would like to speak, please press the raise hand button, starting with Alyssa Newsome.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. So I am joining for public comment today just to comment on a few different issues. One, I wanted to also urge council to vote no on the purchase of this property. Just from what I understand about it, and that there hasn't been, it doesn't seem like there's been much discussion about it. And I echo the previous speaker whose name I did not catch. I believe that there could be creative solutions here that doesn't require spending the amount of money that's being discussed. That just seems like a lot, and it seems like more time to consider the issue would be appropriate. Second, I also wanted to say that I am in favor of more transparency when it comes to, discussing police oversight and oversight in government. And I just wanted to express my support and my agreement with other people that we should have more oversight and transparency when it comes to issues in government. And I would urge you to move away from meetings that are more behind closed doors. Sorry, it's been a long day. It's been a long day for you too. I wish I was more eloquent. And lastly, I just want to say real quick that I would really appreciate seeing City Council express their support and solidarity for the people in Palestine, in Gaza especially, and would urge you to consider the resolution that I believe has been mentioned. My phone died at one point. I had to get to a charger and wait for it to charge. But that's all I want to say, just to make my voice heard, and thank you very much for your time and listening to what I have to say.
Thank you.
Loud as it goes. Next is Vidya. Vidya.
Good evening.
Hello, I'm Vidya. I live just off of Mansfield. I'm here today to express my support for the resolution calling for a ceasefire in Palestine and also adding language about stopping the sending of aid to Israel. The debate about whether or not ethnic cleansing is occurring has long been over. It's now escalated into rapid genocide in the largest open-air concentration camp in the world. Palestinians can't leave, humanitarian aid can't get in, resources are dwindling, and entire genealogies are being erased. Israel is on the back foot in their fight to control the narrative, seeking to justify their collective punishment and other war crimes however they can. They lean heavily on the political support and military aid of governments like our countries, which has endorsed, armed, and funded their illegal occupation project for decades with our tax dollars. Every bit of pressure we can offer, even from small towns like ours, absolutely matters in pushing power for an end to this genocidal apartheid project. I urge us to join the other cities calling for ceasefire, the countries withdrawing diplomats, the thousands of workers refusing to take part in the logistics of their war effort, and the millions of protesters around the world, and recognizing that Palestinians are human beings with inalienable rights who deserve to be free from the river to the sea. We must stop sending support to Israel and demand a ceasefire immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Before you do that, Aaron, I'm sorry. Can we just have the motion to extend now so we can keep going?
Move to extend the meeting to 12 o'clock.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I both support and oppose?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Aaron, sorry. Go ahead.
Next is Ken Tokars.
Good evening.
Ken, you have the ability to speak, but it looks like you're on mute.
About now.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, Ken Tokars, Adrian, Michigan, former resident of Ypsilanti. Kudos out to Mayor Farmer, Mr. Carisno, Jennifer Goulet, and Mr. Tucson. I think the last time I was in the city chambers was in 2006 with some of you. And I support that we do not do anything with the purchase of the Mansfield property. When I moved out of when I moved out of Ypsilanti, my taxes were $6,000. My taxes in Adrian are about $1,700 a year. I think that a purchase for $4 million is going to land up raising taxes for Ypsilanti residents. And now that my kids are grown, it's going to limit my possibility of ever moving back to the city of Ypsilanti. The other things that you have to consider with the $4 million, you're taking probably a $30,000 or $40,000 property off the taxes. 14 West Forest probably has environmental issues that will have to be addressed. The new property is going to have work done. It's going to need gas tanks. It's probably going to need a new salt building. In the end, if it is purchased, I think you're going to land up keeping both properties. And that's why I think you should keep the 14 West Forest property. I work in construction. I'm thinking for $2 million, you could get that 14 West Forest property back up and running. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is SDD.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yes.
Council, this is Sam Darcy, darling. You've known me as Sam Jones, darling. I'm taking the highly unusual step of staying up until nearly 3 a.m. to speak to you. The reason I'm doing that is because I fear that you're sought in enacting Ordinance 1421 will seek to undermine efforts that I literally spent my blood, sweat, and tears attempting to build in the city of Ypsilanti around transparency. I recognize the need to maximize staff capacity, though it's my experience, having served in public office in Ypsilanti, Eastern Michigan University, the state of Michigan, and several public offices now in the United Kingdom, that this just isn't the way to do it. It undermines public confidence, especially on something so crucial and so critical as the Police Advisory Commission. People in the city need to know what is being said in that room. That's why the commission was created in the first place. And for the council members that weren't aware, that commission took years to establish. And it wasn't even established to resident satisfaction in many cases. And there's still much contention, to my understanding, within the community about it. There certainly was when I left. I think you really must consider this. While legal, not smart. While legal, not transparent. And frankly, while legal, not everything that's legal is a good idea. So I would ask you to deeply, deeply consider what I've said and the journey that Ypsilanti has been on to being a more transparent city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is CYU.
Good evening.
You're on mute if you're speaking.
Hello, am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hi. My legal name is Joseph Weiss. I reside in Ypsi, and I'm here to demand that the city council sign the ceasefire resolution including the amendment for a complete cease to U.S. military aid to Israel. The Zionist apartheid state of Israel has committed countless internationally prohibited war crimes and has not only completely gotten away with it, but has been perpetually funded and supported directly by the United States through the use of our tax dollars. Millions of people across the US and the world have been gathering and organizing to march, to protest, and to hold picket lines to stop the shipment and aid being sent to the Zionist apartheid state of Israel. The people have spoken and clearly do not support the ethnic cleansing being waged upon the people of Palestine. Zionist and Israeli supporters have blood on their hands. You need to use your power to cease the fire now and end military aid to terrorists. Also, regarding the resolution 2023-213, Open Meetings Act needs to remain open. We need more transparency on the police and all government matters to the public for any hope of democracy. As well as considering the purchase of 599 South Mansfield, you're willing to blow millions of dollars on a fix-it-up property that's more than it's worth from an old friend and previous council member, but you claim that you have no money or resources for a 24/7 free and accessible shelter. It's pathetic and it doesn't look good on you. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Zoom wants to speak, press the raise hand button, please.
Is there anybody else here? Nope. Okay. Oh, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chuck Boltman. I live at 220 South Huron. And you may remember I am still a practicing architect. Tonight, I would like to very quickly say that I support the not purchasing the Mansfield property today. I do believe the process has not been transparent enough and has not been accessible for people like myself to study. And I also want to say that I completely support keeping the Open Meetings Act in as it applies to the Police Advisory Board and every other place it can be. But what I'm here tonight to talk to you about is Dorsey Estates. And I understand that I am late to this conversation, and I understand that there has been a conversation, but there is nothing built yet, and there are no permit drawings yet. And so therefore, the project has not started. And as I can attest as an architect, the design and planning of a project is roughly 5 to 10% of the project. So that puts 90 to 95% of the toothpaste still in the tube. There's no reason to do something if you have that kind of numbers behind you. So there's been a lot of conversation about this project. And one of the things that have been discussed in a recent Facebook post is, what is necessary for a person to live well? I think that's a wonderful thought. And it was followed by prepare for the future. And I'd like to discuss the project from that point of view. So the project is, the details are, it is 4.6 acres. It is 46 buildings, 56 units total, which might house 120 to 150 people, depending on how that's used. 36 buildings, though, are single-family residential buildings. 75% of the project is single-family residential. So it would seem that the question really is what is necessary for a person to live well in a single-family house going into the future? There have been comparisons online as people talk past one another that if I can live in a 12,000 square foot house, why can't you? Well, that's an interesting thing to be discussed because the largest house in the development is 12,000 square feet. The other houses are 900 square feet, and the smallest house is 450 square feet. Those don't compare very closely to 1,200 square feet. The real big difference is that a house in a regular house, if you will, in the city that is 1,200 square feet is on a quarter-acre lot, 12,000 square feet. The houses in Dorsey Estates are on 2,000 square foot lots, 1/22 of an acre. Think about that. When your house is on 1/22 of an acre, 1/3 of your lot is the parking area, 1/3 of your lot is the house, and 1/3 of your lot is the front yard. So the question is, what is necessary for a person to live well in a single family house for, say, 10 years? Because they're single family houses, and for people to get equity, they have to live there for a while. I have more to say. I do believe the project has some flaws. I don't believe people can live in a dignified way on 2,000 square feet of land because they can't take care of their house for 10 years. They can't own a snow shovel, or they have no place to store a snow shovel. They don't even have basements in the houses.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience, or is there anyone else who has emerged online?
One more on.
There's one more online. Okay. Good evening.
Abigail, you're
Good
allowed to speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abigail, and I live on 3019 Roundtree Boulevard. And I'm echoing my fellow Ypsilanti Michigan residents in the utmost importance of agreeing to the resolution affirming support and solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza and Palestine. In addition, I echo the support of the necessity to amend this resolution to not only include an end to Israeli apartheid and the occupation and blockade of Palestinian land by Israeli military forces, but also to include a statement in opposition to all existing and any future military aid to Israel. We simply cannot turn a blind eye to genocide and ethnic cleansing. And as a proud Jewish woman and descendant of Holocaust survivors, I say not in my name. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom or anyone in the audience who has not had an opportunity to speak to council? Going to one.
Say that again.
So is there anyone else on Zoom or anyone else in the audience that has not had an opportunity that would like to address council? All right. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Thank you all so much. Okay, so we did amend the agenda to move resolutions 216 and 217 up to after public comment. So Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxon, you have resolution 2023-216.
Resolution number 2023-216, resolution for purchase of 599 South Mansfield. It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that whereas the Ypsilanti Department of Public Service needs a new building to continue operations, and whereas city council authorized property search by buyer's agent, and whereas suitable property has been found at 599 South Mansfield, and whereas city council after staff presentation and recommendation finds it in the best interest of the city of Ypsilanti to purchase 599 South Mansfield for the sum of $3.7 million cash. Now, therefore, the purchase of 599 South Mansfield is approved and authorized, and the mayor and the city clerk are authorized to sign the proposed purchase agreement, copy attached hereto, and the city manager and staff are authorized to implement the purchase agreement and do all things necessary to close the purchase, all subject to the approval of the city attorney. Further, the city manager and staff are authorized to sell any and all of the unneeded personal property that goes with the sale by public or private sale as allowed by law, and to retain auctioneers and sales agents as necessary. And I so move.
Support.
Moved and supported. Good evening, Director Westler. Are you coming first, or City Manager, Dr. Westler? All right, good evening.
We've discussed on many occasions some of the needs that have arisen at the DPS facility over the past year that have developed over the past decades. We've established elsewhere that this is an urgent situation and that the DPS has been searching for alternatives over the past year, approximately. Tonight, we have a proposal on the table to relocate to 599 South Mansfield. This has not been an easy decision. We've looked at a number of alternatives and a number of the costs associated with it. So in addition to the purchase cost, we looked at the costs to remediate and to rebuild on 14 West Forest. We looked at the costs of renting and of partnering. This does present itself, although a very difficult option, absolutely the most economical option. As we discussed, we believe that the improvement cost for 599 South Mansfield, as well as the purchase cost for 599 Mansfield, is going to be significantly less than the cost to fix 14 West Forest by about $2 to $3 million at our estimates. And will take significantly less time and less stress upon the city and its services overall.
Tis all.
That's all.
Okay. Any, yeah, all right. So questions from council or any conversation from council?
Want to go?
Go first.
All right.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, lots of people have been, are we just asking questions or are we discussing?
It's both questions
All
and
of-
discussion. Mhm.
Lots of people have brought this up. I'm equally dismayed with the short notice of this. There has been, as Director Westler said, there has been due diligence that's been going on before this has been brought to us. And this has been a topic of a conversation many times in this chamber of the lack of facilities on Forest. And that has been increasingly causing problems there. Without getting into that, I was under the understanding that we were going to have a slide to kind of show some of the relative costs.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so these are the estimated costs for 3 properties that have been identified out of many more properties that had been considered, and other proposals. You know, these estimates are, you know, people have questioned, you know, what the total cost of these different options would be and what the suitability for this property is. My understanding of this property is that while it is higher, and I also brought up the point that this sold a year ago for much less than this. And I don't pretend to understand that market for industrial properties. But as it sits here, looking at the numbers here, we as presented, the construction costs are there for all 3 of the properties. And I can't see but the point here is that overall $599 is the less expensive option. It is a significant cost to the city when we look at the general fund and what this is going to take to do that. It's a hit, and we all acknowledge that is a significant cost. Behind this is years of neglect. And so for people to come up and say that, yeah, well, there's not been transparency. Well, there's also the lack of investment in infrastructure for several councils before this. I've been on council for 5 years, and we've been talking about this for 5 years. And this goes back to some of the other decisions that have been made in the city by past councils that have neglected basic operating costs of the city. Capitalization plans that never happened. That's why we're in this state right now. And so, yes, this came up very quickly, and there wasn't much information out in the public, and that's primarily for contractual reasons. There's a contract in negotiation, and that's why that was there. I have issues with the cost of this property comparative to the price that was paid a year ago. That may not even be relevant anymore. That's not the cost of what it is now, and that's not the cost that it's going to be tomorrow. And that's the other point that we have to look at. So everybody up here is looking at what is the real cost of the city of doing this and not doing it, and what do we do with the people who are currently working in facilities on Forest Avenue? And we owe it to our citizens to provide the services that come out of that building. If that building is not available and the Department of Public Services can't work from that, then we're paying even more to provide those services. So this is a hard decision and it's a whole lot of money. And I appreciate the comments from people about the transparency. And sometimes that doesn't happen because of contractual issues. But I think staff have done a reasonable job of presenting this and the options that are there. So I'll end with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons.
Okay, so one, I just want to start with just naming that I understand, I hear, feel a lot of the fear, I think, really, that folks have been expressing around this big ticket item. And I think based on folks who I've talked to about this, you know, especially for folks who lived in the city for a very long time and have gotten used really to austerity over a very long time. And we can do it with gum and duct tape, you know. Yes, we can do it with gum and duct tape, but doesn't mean it is good and doesn't mean it provides safety, you know. And so I totally hear and understand that. And I want to name, even from before I was on council, that, you know, when hearing the budget reports, looking at that information, that we were building a reserve. And so now we have some savings. And while we're not currently in a position where we will be saving at the same rate and be in a savings position, we do have the ability to use some of our savings. And so the question really becomes how? What does that look like and for what? I think that some things that I also want to lift up, some things that I think are really important. One, worker safety and morale. DPS, in terms of city services, is probably one of the most visible departments. There's the police department, which I'm just, oh gosh. I'm just saying, in terms of our visible departments, we have the police department, our DPS department, probably the most visible of the city services that people experience. And as we experience and know, not only in terms of general winter maintenance, when we're talking about the kind of, you know, we talk about climate mitigation, we talk about the storms that we've already experienced and that we will be experiencing more. That comes with a lot of need for services that DPS provides, both in terms of removal, in terms of, you know, as the tree limbs come down, when we talk about, you know, all the things that we've already seen, and that I know I received accolades from the community around DPS response to in these spaces. And so I just want to name that too, that when we are facing situations where we can have a loss of services because of lack of capacity, and to name this is not just about office space. This is not about people needing a place to get on the internet. This is about our one, I don't know if y'all, you know, people know, one, I'm not a driver. So when I talk about vehicles, it's a little coming from a certain place. But I look around and every vehicle is getting bigger and bigger. Everyone's getting more and more afraid to be closer to the ground. And so this is also happening with trucks. They're getting bigger and bigger. And so when we think about size, when we think about what it means, you know, we just heard a very in-depth conversation about how our salt trucks and our ice trucks, you know, what it takes for them to be thawed out in the wintertime. And that we don't have the capacity, we don't have the space and ability to do that. But what I do know is that when we had snowstorms, that people were talking about how great snow removal was here. And I know, because I used to go from here into Ann Arbor, that they don't have that same kind of service. I know when I go into Ypsi Township, they don't have that same kind of service. And so when we think about the cost of services, these are some of those things. So I just want to name that, that this to me is in part looking at the worker safety and space, what it means for the city services to be disrupted, and what lack of safety that would bring to the wider community around that, and what it means to change from being in an austerity focus to trying to actually catch up and hopefully get ahead in some ways. And to me, it opens an opportunity for what that means as we think about our other facilities and other needs in the city. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up too is, folks ask questions about the timeline, and I understand that. I understand it's quick. I understand that, there's a lot of information that hasn't come out. And I'm just gonna, I'm gonna say something that I don't know. I want to just say capitalists is gonna capital. They're gonna do what capitalists do, which means that when land goes out, they say, oh, somebody's looking, they're gonna try to get the most that they possibly can. And also what that means is that the city, the longer we're in this space, the more people are going to jack up the price. You know why? Because we're going to become more and more desperate. And so I say that because that is what we see. That's what we know. Nobody's been able to tell me, because I've been trying, I'm like, how do we do this outside? People are like, oh, capitalists. I'm just naming this. I'm naming it because I think it's important to recognize that, when looking at these properties, it's easy to think about what happens in the residential market, which we already know is bonkers. Okay, we know the residential market is bonkers, and that follows through in all these other spaces, but that commercial properties do not operate. They're not priced in the same way as residential. And so one thing that I can do is when I'm not expert, I ask a lot of questions and I try to trust the folks that we have in space. And so know that we were in that closed session for almost 2 hours. It wasn't because we were twiddling our thumbs, y'all. We were really asking all of the questions that people have been bringing to us. The other thing I want to bring up, because this came up in public comment as well as in conversations previously, about the relationship of Brian Jones Chance to this project as our broker, that folks have had concerns about both like ethics and proprieties, things of that sort. And so were able to get information about that as well, which was to lay out that one, when we are putting out, when we're trying to get services from professional, which to me, I'm going to say probably someone who like has some kind of licensing expectations, such as realtor services, that we don't have to go out for a public bidding process for that. And also that it was determined that actually being able to hire someone who has knowledge of the city is actually a benefit in these ways, to understand what we're working with, what we're looking for, and the relationships in this space. And I think the other thing to just say is also the timeline. So as we see on these slides here, in terms of how much time that we could be looking at for as this can happen, that even if we were trying to to fix up the 14 West Forest, that is looking, I think it says 1.5 years. I think I wrote down something different, but yeah, so that we're looking at over a year for that, but the needs are moving quicker than that. So oh, and then the last thing I'll just say is that one thing that I think it will be important, and I know that we will be looking into, which is that that we will, hopefully be able to maybe find some other sources for some of the funds, even though we are able to currently cover them. So I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Simmons and Mayor Pro Tem, you said much of what I'm also thinking. I think I'll just reiterate that a part of this is that there's not been investment in our infrastructure over many years. The can has been kicked. And I think a part of that also to remind ourselves that some of it has been to put funds into other things that the community has asked for. And while we have been kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul a lot of the time, we do have some savings from, vacant positions that haven't been filled. This is not money that we was just laying around. It's been over years of some of the things that we actually need that we don't have has now turned into some additional funding for us to be able to finally invest in our public infrastructure, which will continue to crumble if we don't do something soon. DPS is not the only space that needs love, right? And needs something, the city hall, anybody been in the elevator? A flooding basement in the police department, issues at the fire department. I mean, there are just numerous of things that are issues that have not been tended to over many, many, many years. And I think that this is a really difficult decision to make. Like Mayor Pro Tem said, I am not a fan of the price whatsoever. But also, like Councilmember Simmons said, capitalism and folks learning more and more about our need is only going to make this amount higher and higher. And now it is very public that we are in dire straits. And so it's tough. It's a tough decision to make. And I've been teetering on it since what time did we get out? 8:30? And so yeah, I'll stop there. But are there any other? Councilman Sweet?
I'll just say that, right, our current existing public services property on 14 West Forest, that main area that the staff are operating out of on a daily basis was constructed in the early 1800s. So we are not, and it has reached its maximum lifespan in regards to several different factors. And now we're looking at staff safety concerns. That structure in itself and the entire site cannot support or continue to support the operations of a modern day city. We've had staff that have been with the department for 20 plus years that they've made it work because they've had to make it work. And now we're at a point where it's not working and we need to find another alternative to do that. Yeah, would it be great to not have to buy a property and reuse the site? Ideally, but looking at the options that have been vetted, not just by staff, but by outside advisors and agencies as well, we are just, right, that's not in the best choice right now. We need to make some of these actions in a timely fashion to make sure that operations can continue. We're getting into obviously the winter season, and there's a lot of logistical things that need to be worked out and spaces that we need to have available to provide services that everyone expects to provide. If we don't move forward with some decision in regards to how DPS is going to operate, there's going to be some severe service disruptions and some severe repercussions that will come of things that we're not going to be able to do until we have some, solutions, whether that be a new property or reinvesting in our current space. So something has to happen the more economical, even though I'll agree with everyone that's already mentioned that the price tag is awful. No one wants to pay what we're looking at price wise, right? But
Continue. You got to continue.
okay, thank you. So that's where we're at. That's the options. There'll be more information. Full information will be available on the city website tomorrow as well, with additional more information will be available on the city website tomorrow for full information, in addition to the slide that's in front of you for those that were taking photos, just as a reference.
Continue.
Okay, that's it. That's my time.
The other piece that I'll just add is just to lift that it's beyond the price. It's about the people and the safety of our staff and our employees who come into work and do some of the hardest jobs that are around in city government, who are out at night clearing roads and doing all these things that personally I would not want to do. And have them be able to do that safely and be able to return home to their families at the end of the night, or to return to work in the morning, to make sure that we can traverse the community and traverse the city safely. So I think that is also has been the forefront of my mind, is around how do we make sure that we prioritize the safety of our employees, because that is paramount as well in terms of the location that we are currently functioning out of. And I can't say that it's 100% safe, right? Are there any other
I would just say thank you to everybody for coming out. I do not want to be redundant and repeat everything that everyone has said, but we did take that 2 hours to explore other options and try to figure out what the best option. As everybody up here has already stated, this is a difficult decision, but we want to make the best decision so we can continue the services in the city.
Thank you. Any further discussion or any further information from staff? No. All right. Oh, Councilmember Simmons.
I'm
sorry, we can't have back and forth with the audience. I apologize. We cannot do that. Councilmember Simmons.
The only other thing I realized I didn't mention that had come up as a question is thinking about the current site. And so just a couple of thoughts, which is one, that, during any transition, there's still some usage for that site. I did have a resident reach out to me, well, I think to all of us anyway, not just me. But just to offer just a thought that this was a new thought for me. So I'll share it with you all, which is to think about possibilities. So we don't know what we could do with that site. There's going to need to be, there's going to be need for remediation. That site, before it was even used for DPS, was also used for some other kind of thing that was also making it dirty, right? So like there's different needs at that site. And also to name that even if we wanted to build for ourselves there, that would require remediation. So we can't even just reuse it as it is. We would actually have to do remediation work to even use that site. So if we want to add more things, build on that site, that actually takes work too. But to say that that location is in a walkable, bikeable, public transportable spot. And so there could be other uses that can actually be open for community. That could be something positive. And that there could possibly be then other monies to help support that. So I just wanted to put that there too, because I know thinking about what that site will be, what it could be, we don't know. But just to pull that out too. So I just wanted to put that out. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comment or discussion from council? right. Clerk Smith, please call the roll.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
A pass.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson. 5 yes and 1 abstain.
You said pass.
Oh, Councilmember King,
But I'm gonna abstain.
5 yes and 1 abstain. The motion carries.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, you have the next resolution.
Resolution number 2023-217, resolution to amend the general fund budget to transfer $3.7 million to capital improvement fund for purchase of 599 South Mansfield. It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that whereas city council determines that the purchase of 599 South Mansfield, Ypsilanti, Michigan 48197 is necessary for the continued operation of Ypsilanti Department of Public Service, and whereas the property of 599 South Mansfield is suitable and available for purchase, and whereas city council has authorized the purchase of 599 Mansfield, and a budget amendment is required to transfer the funds for the purchase. Now therefore, council authorizes the budget adjustment to transfer funds from the general fund to the capital improvement fund account 414-2652-970-03 in the amount of $2,950,000, scratch that, to $3,700,000 for the purchase of 599 South Mansfield, Ypsilanti, Michigan 48197, and I so move with the correction.
It's been moved and supported with the correction. Discussion? Comments? All right, seeing none, Clerk Smith, please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson, Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
5 yes, the motion carries.
Thank you. We have a presentation about Avalon housing, yay, in the public hearing. Let's see.
Paper versions, if anyone would like one for our presentation. Y'all can take one down.
Good evening or night.
We have the ability to put it up.
I emailed it to Kate.
That's right, you did, sorry.
Thanks.
All right, and we have it here. This is it. This is not it?
That's part of the, that's not the one that they have now,
Oh,
but it might be in there though still. Actually,
oh, this is it. Yes.
is there a presentation in our packet or is it separate? I think it's separate.
Oh, okay. So we didn't, did we get it?
We were tweaking it last minute earlier today, so
Oh,
that is why
yes.
it is not in the packet, but
It will be in the minutes.
Okay.
theoretically,
Theoretically.
All right.
it should be.
I just wanted to be able to pull it up if we had it.
Yeah, yep. No, I mean, and
Yeah, please.
Oh, there you
cool.
go.
Yay.
All right.
So I'm Hayden Pendergrass along with Kat Layton. Jason Cloutier has a day job, as most of us do,
Mhm.
so we had to leave. We were 3 of the members of the 206 North Washington CBA committee. We were joined by several others who formed that committee. And so I guess we can just go to the next slide, which is a little bit self-explanatory. We're just gonna talk about the background of the property, how Avalon Housing came into the picture, and then we're gonna blast through what the CBO is and how it works, and then reach the agreement that was reached with the efforts of the committee, and then Kat, who helped prepare this presentation so helpfully, provided a bibliography at the end, which is great. So to start, I guess I'll hand it over to you.
I just want to first go over the purposes of this presentation, just so everyone kind of understands and is on the same page that this is not only for the city council and Avalon, but also Ypsi residents alike. Because the CBO process is developing community benefits that are for not only the residents of this future development, but also the residents of Ypsi in the community. So this community benefits agreement is going to be between the city of Ypsi and Avalon Housing, which is an Ann Arbor-based nonprofit. And so we can go on. Thank you. So in 2017, on January 1st, the once 16 unit apartment building that still stands right now, was owned by or managed by Beal, burnt down on January 1st. And soon after, the treasurer of Washtenaw County foreclosed the building, and they used after a non-payment of taxes and also non-paying of repairs. And so in July 2019, the city of Ypsi City Council voted 7-0 on approving purchasing this property using their right of first refusal act. So they took $75,000 from the Ypsi's Affordable Housing Fund and the rest of it from the Ypsi's Dangerous Buildings Escrow. Thank you so much for, I guess, scrolling. For some reason, I thought they would actually like pop up as one pager, so I apologize. So in March, so COVID happened, first of all. So before COVID happened, the city economic development director at the time put a request for legislation to city council to send out an RFP. I couldn't find the actual RFP release, but 6 months after the city staff did recommend this release, in September, the city council approved one of the two proposals they received, which Avalon Housing was the selected developer, and the other proposal was from Ypsi Housing Commission. And as stated, a lot of the information about these different proposals can be found in the sources of information part at the very end of the presentation. Oh, that's me too, or no?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh,
I mean, I could talk about it.
yeah, you go
Okay,
ahead.
all right.
Sorry.
So ultimately, as part of the RFP, as part of the purchase agreement, the city agreed to a pilot, which, if those who are not familiar with the acronym, is a payment in lieu of taxes. And the idea is that rather than paying the full taxes on the property, the developer would pay a certain amount year after year. And so in this instance, the pilot is a 4% of total shelter rents for the next 50 years. That 50-year number is based on one of the funding sources Avalon's using for the development, hence the lengthy amount of time. The city assessor estimated that the tax would be $55,000 per year. So ultimately, the tax break incentive, when you do all the math, and rounds out to be about 2.38 million. And so that is kind of just the bare bones of the pilot itself. So as part of the now defunct CBO, these types of things would go through, by statute, community benefits process. The city council kind of created the ad hoc committee that we participated in, using the same structure and framework as the now defunct community benefits ordinance. And so if we go to the next one, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through this. I don't want to go too much into the weeds onto the CBO, but it has 2 tiers, and this type of project is a tier 2, which means that it incorporates the elements of tier 1 and tier 2, which are on the next slide. And this describes the nature of possible community benefits that the committee could negotiate with Avalon. And so you can see it's quite extensive and covers a lot of different potential benefits to the city and the community. So that's for later reading, because that's a lot of words. That being said, the next slide just kind of gives you a rundown of how the community benefit process works. You know, the committee's established, they meet, they negotiate, they come to an agreement at the end, which after some zhuzhing by the city attorneys and Avalon's attorneys comes the agreement that the city council can either accept, reject, or amend. And so that's why we're here today, to kind of present the final agreement. And so that leads us to the actual community benefits themselves.
All right, so after 4 meetings of negotiations, we all determined some great benefits. And so the first one is just going to run through them quickly. These are all a lot of heavy word content on the presentation, so you can have them in the minutes to be able to digest them later, to not rely on a recording. So Avalon will affirmatively market the units to seniors, and that is in response to the Fair Marketing Housing Plan, which more information is about that on the sources of information. The second benefit we negotiated for was Avalon affirmatively marketing and prioritizing their supportive housing units to people who are previously incarcerated, consistent with the local coordinated entry process. And that was really came from a discussion, since Avalon has a reentry program that they're working with, trying really hard to connect those individuals who are unhoused in the jail systems to be able to have somewhere to go so they can get out of jail. So grateful for that benefit negotiated. The other one that we asked for was that Avalon would lose their pilot on an individual unit for that year if the tenant had an income that exceeds 60%. And so what that means is that if the tenant has an area median income of over 60%, Avalon would have to pay the full 100% rather than the agreed 4%, and that would be around $750 according to our notes, which are also all included in the sources of information. And the next slide talks about the overview of the area median income. So Ipsy's area median income is $40,256 for a single household. But Washtenaw County is double that. So the AMI, unfortunately, is calculated from the county's area median income. So that means that there's a big discrepancy of a median income for our Ypsilanti residents. And so we tried to advocate for the different types of units that could be made of the 22 bedroom units that they have, or the 22 1-bedroom units, 22 bedroom would be. 14 will be rented with income requirements of 40% or greater. So if you look to the left from the 2022 income limits, that would put them at the 34,000 or higher salary income. And then for the 8 1-bedroom units, those are set aside for individuals who have maximum incomes at 30%, which is at 26,000 a year. And continuing on. I can't keep up with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the next community benefit, this one is Avalon will commit itself to continuing its mission throughout the duration. The objective there was to ensure that Avalon's nonprofit mission continued for the theoretical 50-year length of this project. It's a long time, so we felt it important to include that language as well. Additionally, as part of the planned development, there's what we've been calling a community room. I guess that's what it said on the floor plan, so we stuck with that. And so we included language stating that Avalon would collaborate with community partners to offer appropriate programs to be available to the community. And we've included in the slide just some potential partnerships. Not that Avalon doesn't already partner with some of these in the first place, but the idea is to use that community space for community programming, both for the benefit of the tenants, but also for the community generally. And so that is community benefit 5. The next community benefit 6 involves the green standards that Avalon will be using to build the actual building. Some of that was already part of their requirements from their funding sources, but that means, essentially they'll be trying to build it in an environmentally friendly fashion. On a similar note, the next benefit, should an excess of funding exist after the project is complete, then Avalon will use any additional funds to add renewable components to the building, such as solar. From our committee meetings, that's happened in at least one other Avalon project. So it's a good aspiration. And given the, high volume of solar that already exists in the downtown, it seemed like a natural option for this development. A few other ones include Avalon agrees to assist its residents in acquiring a residential street parking pass with proof of vehicle ownership. We also included Avalon will install a bench in front of the property. That was an important priority given accessibility concerns and kind of the lack of benches in the city of Ypsilanti. And then I believe this is the last one on the Avalon side. Avalon will maximize the use of 2 historic outbuildings for the community as space permits, subject to historic district restrictions, if any. The 2 primary ideas that we thought of that we've included in this slide include possibly a bike shed, or say a community tool shed or something along those lines. So that was something that was part of the development, and so we wanted those spaces to be used for the community's benefit. On the flip side, since this agreement is between 2 parties, 1 Avalon, 2 Ypsilanti, wanted to include additional language. Obviously, the first community benefit that the city of Ypsilanti agreed to makes sense, that it will maintain the 4% pilot for the length of the agreement. Makes sense. The second one was something of a flash of inspiration. So it states to amend Chapter 58 of the Human Relations Commission to further focus on housing affordability and accessibility. This was inspired by way back in 2020, the Ypsilanti Planning Commission had a citizen committee on housing affordability and accessibility. And so we wanted to somehow, capture that in a permanent body, in a permanent commission in the city, because it's an issue that's not going away, and it's important, to the city that we have a body focused on this issue. And so that's why we proposed amending Chapter 58. And on the next slide, this is just suggested language. This isn't necessarily part of the agreement, but this is some of the ways these amendments could take shape. For one, under the purposes and function of the commission, to add language saying that the commission will study the problems of the city relating to housing affordability and accessibility, to make recommendations to the city with respect to these issues. And perhaps after these studies and recommendations, the commission might recommend revisiting the language regarding felony and misdemeanor convictions and anti-discrimination with respect to housing and property, because it does explicitly carve out a relationship between someone's past convictions and their housing opportunities. Similarly, Chapter 58 includes provisions with respect to fair housing and with respect to landlord and tenant relations. So those are all opportunities for the commission and the city to change ordinances to advance affordability and accessibility. Again, this is just us brainstorming and trying to give you some ideas on how to amend Chapter 58.
I also apologize. I keep doing this. I had 6 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours. So sorry about that. So the last agreement for the city of Ypsi is to readopt this old community benefits ordinance that we just mentioned that city council allowed us to use for this project. We're asking that the city council please readopt the community benefits ordinance. I know that there's a lot of great movement around trying to think of different language to also use with some different organizations. And so I would love to see an adoption of this ordinance again, and maybe even some different language for next time. So maybe holding a community engagement of some sort. But that is our presentation. And the next slide will have information for Katie Jones, who is the city staffer, who's been helpful and great in this process, and also Wendy, the director of real estate development for Avalon. But okay.
Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Sorry.
You guys have questions?
Oh,
right?
yeah. I actually don't know what to do. Do we stand here?
I mean, so you don't, okay, you can stand here. We'll start with questions, but we're also gonna have a public hearing. So if there are folks who want to ask.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then typically we ask questions after that.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So you don't have to stand per se.
Okay.
You can sit down.
Okay, yeah.
And so where you go? Oh, okay. First of all, thank you all so much for this presentation. I have to say it was very visually pleasing. It looks great. It's beautiful. Thank you. It was great. This is wonderful. So are you all okay if I open the public hearing first and then we go to questions? So, okay, the public hearing is officially open. If there are members of the audience who would like to speak to this, please raise your hand. Come on up. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Hi, my name is Michael Apple. I'm a staff person at Avalon Housing. We really just want to let you know we're here. If the committee report reflected quite a bit of work, quite a few of hours put in by citizens, staff, and we're pleased that they brought a proposal forward that we think can work with the project. And so thank you. We're eager to move forward. We're close to having the last of our funding sources fall into place. And so this is one of those last of the agreements. And so we're here if you have questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anyone else in the audience? Mayor Farmer.
Cheryl Farmer, 214 North Huron Street. So first, I'd like to say kudos to the members of this committee, the volunteer members of this committee who put a lot of time and thought into the presentation so that everyone here would understand that. And then we contrast that to the presentation of options from our DPW director, DPS director, which showed us her conclusions, but none of her work. So we have no idea why she thought these options were as great or as bad as she did. And I hope to see more on that, even if it's after the fact. Then in terms of the Avalon proposal, I'd just like to say that I continue to feel concern about the plan or the lack of planning to have supervision on site 24/7, which is the case in other Avalon properties. And also the fact that no care has been given into this very fragile and densely parked neighborhood in terms of the additional parking that will likely be required by this proposal, because I think it's naive to think that everyone who lives here is going to take the bus. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? Mr. Gieringer, hello.
Hello again. Yeah, shout out to the CBA team for all their hard work. And yeah, it seems pretty well like another success of the community benefits ordinance. I really appreciate the parts at the end that are recommending council to do certain things. The imagination of Ready and the CBO is that it is like really a three-way agreement between the community, the council, and a developer. And that the community has shown in the past that we are willing to fight against potential developments that are not liked with great success. So that is part of it. The community benefits absolutely needs to be reinstated. It's funny that Brian Jones Chaz left the room right when the thing about the the subcommittee report came up because he was one of the strongest advocates for that to not go into the city charter. And it needs to be. Again, I mean, we have a theme of the night of like volunteer work, people who are willing to put in blood, sweat, and tears into this city for free. The Housing Affordability and Accessibility Subcommittee was a huge example of that, and it was snubbed. And the repercussions of what that subcommittee investigated have only doubled and tripled and quadrupled since that report came out. The last thing I want to mention is that I do think there is still room because of the sort of ongoing community demand for immediate shelter. I think there is room for possibly an amendment of this agreement to include something about Avalon contributing to either a fund or staffing or what have you for the developing shelter, whatever purchases or upkeep, maintenance, staffing that is going to inevitably be happening. I think there's room for that. That wasn't really on the public tongue so much. I mean, obviously we've been talking about it for years, but things blew up during the middle of these negotiations. And I think we can always ask for a little bit more. So I would advocate for that. Thank you all so much for your work.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Is there anyone on Zoom?
Anyone on Zoom wants to speak to this specifically, please press the raise hand button. We have Annie Somerville.
Good evening, Annie. Or good night, Annie.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the community members who volunteered to be part of this process. I'm really thrilled to see the project move forward in ways that will make Ypsilanti better and that involved the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? No? Yes.
Council, unfortunately, I'm still here and it's 4 o'clock. This is Sam Darcy, darling, again. I just point out, hearing the recommendation relating to the affordable housing bit in the HRC, as a previous chair, I would actually suggest opposition to that one and encourage you to not take that bit up.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Anyone else wishing to comment, please press raise hand.
All right. Councilmember Sweet, you have our resolution to close the public hearing.
Resolution number 2023-209, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the public hearing to consider adopting a community benefits agreement for 206 North Washington be officially closed, and I so move.
Moved and supported. Is it what?
Voice vote.
Late. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Please say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay, council, questions, comments, discussion about what we saw or what we're presented with. Councilmember D. Simmons and then Councilmember Sweet.
I'll go right quick. So of course, just want to echo appreciation for the CBA ad hoc group. You know, it's a lot in a short period of time to learn and to kind of get up to speed on development. And I know I had a chance to see some of your meetings so just appreciation for the work. So I know how hard it can be. And so thank you for pulling these forward. Everything looks so reasonable. So I hope that the process was reasonable alongside it. I wanted to say, so the question around the human relations piece and affordability, accessibility, housing. One thing that I know I probably have mentioned in other times, which is, one of the things about getting our HRC back running and strong is in part because of issues that are not being heard, which include things around for renters in particular, things like source of income and other things that would, could go through the HRC to really understand the need and to study what we need to actually resource more and what that looks like. And so I've been interested in the HRC being back up and running just on its own, but also with the hope that that a committee focus on renters rights as well as housing in general could be a part of that. And so I still see that there could be possibilities around a committee or something. And so this kind of leans in that same vein of helping. And I know of helping to maybe name areas for the commission. I think that and then obviously the pieces I know for council, we have talked about the need to work on the CBO. And so this is now the second CBA that's asking the city to do that. It probably would have been 3, but we didn't have that in our mindset for the first one. But and so I think it will be important for us to kind of put together a timeline for that. And I know we kind of wanted to kind of get through this process so that wasn't going to hold up this process. So I definitely encourage us to do that, which will, I think, allow the community to also then get all their ducks in a row around what they would like to see in it too. And I feel like there might have been other things, but my brain isn't working as well. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet.
As the council liaison to this committee, I can tell that there was a massive amount of undertaking put into this, and especially with the presentation. So thank you, Hayden and Kat, for sticking around with us this late to make this happen. But it was very well thought out in the negotiation process and what things they were looking for and advocated for. And I'm very much looking forward to Avalon expanding their scope to the eastern side of the county with their first property in Ypsilanti. So I think we had a good, solid group of residents and look forward to what comes.
Thank you. I just also want to echo, I think I said this before, but thank you all, specifically you two, for staying and presenting on this and this wonderful present. I really do like this. And also say that it continues to be really nice to see the collaboration between, again, entities, the city and the community to really come up with benefits for us all and for those who really need it in mind. I think I have some things to look at and mull over from your recommendations for sure to see how we move forward. But I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and all of the work that was put into this CBA agreement. Well, I just said agreement twice, but it's late. Are there other comments or questions from council? Do you have any?
I would just say thank you as well for working hard. Thank you.
You're actually a presenter.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just don't know how the rules work. So I just wanted to answer a couple questions. There So Avalon agreed to do the parking permits for their residents who have cars because the lot is only 3 cars. And so their families are typically the demographic that uses cars the most. So we wanted just to have an agreement in there. So the bus line is not only the only mode of transportation. That's why we want to include people to have parking and residential parking paid for them. And regarding 24/7 like supervision, that is not at all what this agreement is asking for. It is asking that when Avalon Housing is not using their community rooms, which is often sometimes the case because of staffing or case like just random things, we're asking if then community organizations and grassroots organizations could step in to supply that staffing and also programming in lieu of Avalon to be able to have that space utilized and accessed during the day. It doesn't necessarily mean 24/7, but a place for people to be able to go and have access resources. So I just wanted to answer those couple of questions or things I heard.
Thank you so much. Last call, folks, for questions or comments. All right. Well, thank you both so very much. And thank you to the rest of your committee. And I'm sure more to come.
Yeah.
So thank you.
When do we hear back actually? Is it 15 days or
City
something?
manager, I think he was going to say that.
This will be on the next agenda, so it'll be on the 21st for approval.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if we could hear 2023, 2019 now, Ben Carlisle's in the audience and he's been here for some time.
Okay. Is it can I
Just amend the agenda.
okay. Can someone move to amend the agenda?
I move to amend the agenda to move resolution number 219 in place of item C
Or
with 218.
No, just move it before the
Right
consent.
now, before the consent agenda, because we didn't even make it there yet.
Oh, we didn't. You're right.
Nope.
Move resolution 2023-219 up to before the consent agenda.
All right.
Or
Move and
Is it for
support
both of them? Because there's two
there
with
two?
Carlisle Rodman.
Well, there's one discussion of the audit.
Okay.
Mr. Kylo doesn't need to stay for that one. I'm more interested in hearing what council's input is on the audit.
Okay. All right. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on amending the agenda? Clerk, please call the roll. Or can I do a voice vote?
Voice.
All right. Everybody in favor of moving it up?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Yeah, city manager.
So just a brief introduction. At the end of August, myself and the Economic Development and Equity Coordinator met with Mr. Carlisle and another member of his staff to discuss what we envision their help would be following the remediation of the Water Street site. And we came to a conclusion that we would really benefit from their services if they were to create an RFQ for development, as well as complete a very extensive public engagement. But I can hand it off to Ben to add a little bit more.
1 second, Ben, because we actually didn't read the resolution. Councilmember King, can you please read the resolution?
Resolution number 2023-219. Now therefore be resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approve the Water Street Services proposal from Carlisle Wardman, subject to the approval by the city attorney. I so move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All right. Hello, Ben. Feel free to talk to us.
Hello, good evening. It's nice to be here in front of you tonight.
Thank you.
We haven't been in front of you a lot, but we've been working hard behind the scenes with Water Street and moving this forward. And we've been really working hard and partnering with the environmental consulting firm AKT Peerless and moving this forward. We were with them before you approximately 3 or 4 months ago with kind of updates to where we are with the environmental report. We feel like we're in a good shape, and we feel like now it's time to turn over the heavy lifting that they've done to our system to help the city move this forward. You're at a point now where we are close to really hammering down what the development potential on that site is. We had to get the first in-depth review of the environmental report done find out what was where, and where the dirtiest stuff was, and start the cleanup process. And we're kind of starting that process now, and we'll continue into 2024. But gearing up from that point moving forward, we have put together a proposal to help the city really take the next step of redeveloping and potential development options for that site. So it's a 4-step process. The first is to draft an RFQ. When the city received proposals for the 2 development options on the site, my understanding was it was not done under an RFQ process. It was just 2 applicants submitting concept plans to the city. We think there should be a much more robust public process with regards to how the city reviews development proposals, who it decides to work with, and a better vetting of what those potential development teams may be. And so we suggest to assist you with an RFQ to solicit proposals for development of that site. And so we would assist you as a first phase in drafting, reviewing, and then soliciting that RFQ out to different development teams throughout the state and perhaps nationally. That would take us into approximately July or so of next year. Between now and July, we also propose a community engagement process to solicit input from the public in terms of what they'd like to see at the site. We don't think it would be fair. We don't think beneficial to the development community to solicit an RFQ without public input in terms of what the public would like to see at that site. We think we will get better proposals from the development team if we have upfront public input with regards to the future use of that site. So we have proposed a public engagement process that would be done concurrently with the RFQ drafting, and then those results will be incorporated into the RFQ that actually goes out to the development teams. We've got 3 or 4, I believe 4 different options with regards to community input. Option 1 is 6 focus groups. Option 2 is a community meeting. Option 3 is a full design charrette. And option 4 would be including some potential concept development layouts just to kind of prime the pump for what we would like to see from the development committee moving back. They kind of vary in price and they vary in terms of intensity with regards to process. And I can talk about those more specifically if you have different questions about that. Okay, so those are the first 2 phases that hold up to the 3rd phase, and that would be after the RFQ goes out and we get responses, we would assist the city in reviewing the development application that gets submitted, vetting those the responses to RFQs, and eventually assisting you in making a selection on who the desired team would be, and then working with your city attorney to actually develop a contract that would go forward to the council for consideration. So those are the 4 steps that we have submitted as part of this proposal. In my opinion, I don't think you can take out any one of them. I think all 4 of them are essential to move the process forward. And so with that, I'm open to any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My first question is, going to be about money. Is that covered in the funding that these options?
So the resolution that council approved with the partnership with Ann Arbor, that would be, if approved, we would be able to use that for funding, or we could use the brownfield to fund this as well.
Thank you for that. That's my first question, top of mind. Other questions from council? I have a question real quick. Sorry. Do you have to pick an option like today for those community, for the community input stuff?
Well, it's just we want to either take out one of those steps or do all 4. And right now the resolutions as all 4.
So no, I don't mean all 4 steps. I mean the options for the community input meetings. Whether it's the focus groups, the single community meeting, the charrettes, do we have to decide that today?
In my opinion, no. But I'm not the one who's going to eventually draft the contract, and I assume that would be part of the contract in terms of what you would like with regards to process.
Yes. Okay. Councilmember Simmons, I know you're about to start talking.
Yeah,
y'all.
I do have some. Oh, I love an 11-11 moment. Okay, let me reach into my ancestors for the strength to think through. Okay. So a question I had was around these different pieces and parts. I'm trying to kind of get a sense for them because it looks like, just because I just did quick addition. So I don't trust it, which is that for each of these parts, so we're looking at about $60,000 to $70,000. That sound accurate for,
Is it 80,000 in the?
oh, did it say 80?
Right.
Oh, so I missed one of these numbers somewhere.
In the RFL.
Yeah, that 80 would include all the different options for community engagement, which we don't think is necessary at this point. We gave you 3 different options to consider for engagement. Just the 3 phases, not taking out community engagement, the 3 phases, there's 37, it's about 48,000 for the RFQ drafting, the review of the submittals, and the selection assistance, and then, you know, based on whatever option, anywhere ranging from 15,000 or, you know, 5,000 to 15,000, that would be on top of that number I just.
Okay. Okay. I'll just jump to the community engagement. I guess I'll ask some questions because I'm trying to understand. Like, I'm trying to understand how one community meeting costs $5,000 and a virtual component costs $2,000. Like, I'm just trying to understand what that means. And part of this is also because I'm guessing this is one of those professional services things. Is that what it is? I just want to be clear because
Check me out right now, please.
I'm just trying to be clear because I say this. Y'all do great work. It's been great. And you do a wide range of things. And there are folks who literally their focus is community engagement and also probably are already here and probably have connections and different things. So that's why I'm trying to figure that out. So when I'm thinking at these costs, I'm just like, ooh, because I know that we're just kind of like.
Yeah, a professional services contract does not need to follow the bidding process, but if it's over $25,000, it still requires council approval.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like come through, figure this out a little bit because it seems like the work is still kind of hourly. This is why I'm kind of getting confused because it seems like we kind of get the contract is still hourly, so it's not like okay. I know y'all. I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna figure this out because I just don't like to be confused. So looking at this, I'm trying to figure out between these different pieces. So for instance, with 6 focus groups. And so is this to say we would have, it'll be like, hey, we have these 6 options and then people can kind of choose into which option so that we can try to get more folks than we might get with one meeting. So just like in terms of that process, what does that look like?
You talking about specifically the focus group option?
I'm just gonna go, yeah.
We would work with staff and council and other, city boards and commissions in determining who the 6 focus groups should be and who should be part of that process. And then we would, once those 6 are selected, we would then lead a very detailed facilitated discussion with them on their various interests in terms of what their interest and stake in the particular property is going to be. In terms of who those members are going to be in the focus groups, can't tell you now. We haven't got that far yet. But what I can tell you is we would work diligently with your staff and this council if you've got specific groups that you'd like us to talk to or individuals that you'd like us to talk to as part of this process.
So it might be a little bit more targeted, I guess.
It'd be very targeted. I mean, it'd be targeted to we do focus group. Again, it depends on the issue, but for this one, I would see we would probably do a resident focus group, a developer focus group, any other special interest focus group, other community member focus group. So we'd be very selective in terms of who we would part of the focus group, but it would be wide ranging in terms of various interests in the property.
And you would kind of suggest some options for us.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And then the one thing I'll say too, so for the single community meeting, y'all, like 2 hours, come on. Like, I don't know what you think is going to happen in 2 hours, but like, if we only have one, I'm just saying this, I don't know. So in 2 hours is $5,000 or $7,000 for 2 hours. So I'm just trying to, I feel like that is an unrealistic expectation. So I guess, so if we say we need more hours, then that cost will go up.
Well, no, I mean, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4 hours. The $5,000, the cost of the $5,000 is so much more in the prep, in the results afterwards in terms of putting it together and formulating the results for you to analyze. The actual cost of $5,000 is fractional with the actual how long the meeting it takes. There's just a lot of time that has to go up front into producing a community meeting that is not accounted for in the total number of how long the community meeting is. You'd be surprised. We do a good facilitated meeting in 2 hours. We get a lot done. We try to keep it tight and focused to actually make it results oriented rather than just letting it spill out. If you think 3 hours is appropriate, 4 hours, we can do it. But you'd be surprised how well we can get stuff done in 2 hours.
I'm just naming because I know it's going to be huge is what I mean, like this room, I mean, it'll be like, like, you know, like 3 times, like 4 times.
Yep.
So I just think it's going to
we ways manage that. We do it. We have breakout groups. We do this all the time. So, you know, we're not worried about the number of people that come and how to arrange it and how to orchestrate the meeting.
And then the other thing is, so it's just in terms of making sure that this process is also being able to put forward some of the new information that we will have about potential usage, like where things are. So that's also part of this, is that it will.
That's the most important thing. Because I'll be honest, the proposals you've got aren't realistic to what's out there. And so for this thing to be successful, you have to have a realistic proposal back to you. And in order to get a realistic proposal, we have to give realistic information to the applicants that would come back with a proposal to you. And so that's why we are suggesting that the RFQ doesn't go out until, let me see here, probably you know, later this spring, because at that point we'll have a much better idea in terms of what the actual environment on the ground is at the site. So late spring, early summer would allow us to get all the environmental reports finished, the cleanup started, and get the community input done by that point to put that into the RFQ.
But then but for the community input part, so this is what I guess this is what I was meaning, not just for the developers, but for the community to have information so that as we're thinking about what we want to see at the site, that we're able to take into account the site in some way.
We should be getting that. If we have our AKT Peerless has a good idea already what is and what's dirty and what's not, what's practical out there and what's not.
Okay.
And I'll be honest to this council, we're gonna have to have a very honest conversation with the residents. And this is what's feasible and this is what's not feasible. This is why, and this is why it's not feasible. And so there may be some surprises that come out of this from the residents hearing this, but you know, it has to be an open, honest discussion. That's why we would not advise doing the RFQ without doing a community input session.
Well, I guess this is a question, I mean, especially for folks who've been on council for a long time, because I know that there has been a lot of community input in terms of what people want to see at Water Street, which is why I feel like if we're gonna do something like it, how is it gonna be different than what we've already gathered, and what that means in terms of like the resources we put into it and how to make it so. Because I think that we've gotten a lot, these past things have been based on other conversations. I don't know that things have changed that much in terms of what people want to see. But I don't know, just like for folks that might have been here to think about what would make this process different, or what we'd be hoping to get from this that's different than what we've already have gathered.
So my brain, it's not doing well. But I think my question in conjunction with that would be are we going to have the information back from AKT about these additional, like the testing, by the time this is happening? Because I feel like that, for me, would be the only thing that makes it different and responsive.
Yeah, because this looks like in January.
Okay, January. Okay. Yeah.
AKT is very far along, and if not, they're mostly complete with their testing at this point.
Okay. I didn't know. Okay, so that answers for me then yes, in terms of if we get information back that's different in terms of what is down there,
Mhm.
because we recognize that over the years, there have been spots tested, but not the entire property. And so we don't have a full scope of what is there, and that would determine what could be there, depending upon how good or bad it is down there. So that would be one of the main things that comes to mind for me initially around different input based on different information, if there is a lot of it.
If this site's ever gonna be developed, it has to be realistic.
Yeah.
And there has to be a realism from both the development community and the city of Ypsi. And I mean the Ypsi, I mean everybody, residents, this council. And without a realistic discussion with the community that lends itself into a realistic expectation, the RFQ, it's not going to be we're not going to have the site ever developed.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why I do think we have a lot more information with the environmental that would lend itself to a much more credible public input process. And we as a firm we do this a lot, and we have no problem stating the realities of what development of that site would be and what the restraints are, but what are the opportunities too. And so I think that would be a valuable input into the process of input.
I may have missed something because I stepped out, but I want community input.
Mhm.
So okay.
Yeah.
I was like, did I miss something? Okay. City manager, I saw your hand.
Just in addition to that, it's been quite a number of years since we've actually reached out to the community about Water Street and what they want. And now that we have more information, we should either, find if that still holds true, or if there's a different vision. And with this different information, new information, then we'll have a better idea to what to put in that RFQ and what developments are realistic. And then on top of that, then council will have additional information about our public now and what they want. So it will be able to make a more informed decision with a selection of a developer.
What services that can be done.
Right.
Correct.
That's gonna inform what it can do. And that's gonna be a big piece of that is educating.
Oh, the other question I have is, well, I would just say, like, I mean, I don't know, looking at these options, I mean, I think maybe focus groups could be good, but I'm also wondering about whether there could be an option that would include something that could be more asynchronous. So like a survey where we kind of put out information and then we're asking for some information, whether it's like at the same time or like round one is this, and then we take that and then get a sense of where people like how people agree or favorable with some of the things that come out of the focus groups or something like that. Like if that would be an option, so that we can get, maybe broader participation in some ways.
Certainly we can do a survey as part of the engagement. I would suggest we don't do that as the only engagement option, but I think we can add as an additional option onto an additional step in the engagement process. Yes.
Right. Other things from council, and again, we have to give kind of like a decision on the options, right?
Yeah, I would suggest doing either the charrette or the 6 focus groups.
With the survey as well?
Yeah, correct, with the survey as well. So perhaps just approve up to a number.
So approve up to 15,000.
Well,
Yeah, I
plus
think
the
that-
other items. So you want
Oh,
the
the other- the main
RFQ,
ones, yeah.
22,000.
Yeah. Or a different amount, you're saying?
Yeah, because I think in the
Not to
RFL, I saw like the
Yeah, I put 80,000.
80,000. But that was including all the options, right? So
Yeah, I think the focus groups would be great because then we can
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even, I'm telling you, it's bad. Because so the difference between the charrettes and the focus groups, right? Open studio okay, never mind, sorry. So do we need to make an amendment to put a realistic number in where the 80,000 was with up to 15,000 for one of these options? And in addition to the other things that we have to do in the steps.
So
Well, it wouldn't be up, well, yeah, I guess if we don't know, we're trying to decide, if we don't decide yet, okay. We're trying to make it easier on ourselves, so we don't have to make more decisions.
So
I
if
just
you
want to be clear, we're just trying to have to make it more decisions than we need to, or this. Yeah.
I would just approve up to 70,000 based off what to build that survey and then to release it. I think that would be reasonable because essentially you'd just be subtracting 12,000 from the total.
So I'll move.
Support.
All right, what are we moving and supporting? Up to 70,000.
Up to 70, yeah.
All right, a discussion on that amendment on the floor. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Member King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson, Councilmember D Simmons.
Yes.
Yes, as the motion carries.
Further discussion, is there anything else that's pressing as we have Mr. Carl?
What was the question?
Anything further?
Oh, no.
Okay.
thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you guys.
All right, seeing none, now we have to vote on the full resolution. All right, clerk, please call the roll. Thank you, Mr. Carlisle.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yeah.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for hanging around.
Thank you so much. Where are we?
Thank you.
No, we didn't do the consent agenda.
All right.
Go ahead. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Do it. Whatever. What do you want to do? Or we can go to the consent agenda.
Motion to amend the agenda to move up resolution number 220 to prior to the consent agenda.
There's support for that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there support for that?
Support.
All right. All in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Councilmember Sweet, you have that resolution.
Yes, correct. Resolution number 2023-220, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that upon the recommendation of John M. Barr, Ypsilanti City Attorney, Attorney Randolph T. Barker is hereby appointed Assistant Ypsilanti City Attorney, and I so move.
Moving supported. Any discussion? Thanks for staying. We're so sorry. Oh, we know. It's not works for us either. Any? Oh, okay. Good luck. We're more fun. Any discussion? Any questions? I don't think so. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
She stepped away.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
5 yeses and 2 absent, I guess. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Can I move to table resolution number 2023-213?
It has to be removed from the consent agenda first, right? Before
Right.
that can happen. So you have to remove it.
Okay, I move to remove resolution number 2023-213 from the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Just trying to give Aaron a second because he's writing feverishly.
Thank you.
No problem.
Now I have to move it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
We gotta vote.
you'd have to get to that item on the agenda. So right now it'd be at the
Okay.
top of resolutions, motions,
Right.
discussion.
It'd be in the next section after.
Okay.
What are we at? Okay. So call the roll, please, on.
So the vote to remove YPAC from consent, Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons, Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Vote is to remove the white pack.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
6 yeses, motion carries.
Do you want? Okay, so we're gonna finish the consent agenda and that'll be in the resolution section. All right. Councilmember Tucson, we have our consent agenda
And-
minus 213.
So is there any different thing to say?
Don't read 213.
Okay.
Yeah.
Resolution number 2023-210 resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Resolution number 2023-211. Do I have to read out the whole thing? Okay. Approving the minutes of the October 17, 2023 city council meeting. Resolution number 2023-212, approving the bylaws of the Parks and Arts Commission. Resolution number 2023-214, approving an updated memo of understanding for overnight shelter at St. Luke's. Resolution number 2023-215, approving Bonnie Westler and Gary Birchwell as WRRMA delegate and alternate. So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
6 yeses, motion carries.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Where are we?
We're at the YPAC now.
Okay,
Oh.
yes.
I move to table resolution number 2023-213. I so move.
Is there support?
Oh.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported. There's no discussion on tabling, is there? All right. Is it tabled or to a date
Either-
certain? Or to
If you
just?
table it, it has to come up at the next council meeting.
All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
It don't matter there. Is that a vote?
It's not.
You gotta say yes or no.
Yes. It don't, yeah.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Sure.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion is tabled.
All right, thank you. Councilmember D Simmons, I
Yeah.
think it's on you. Number 218.
What if I can't read anymore? Okay.
Okay.
We said what? Oh, 218.
Yes,
Okay.
218.
Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the contract with Middle Huron Partnership to provide services as described in their statement of work covering the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2028 for an amount not to exceed $63,244.20 be approved. I so move.
Support.
Move and supported. Director Westler, good night.
Good night, council.
Yes, what's up?
So we have been partnering with the Huron River Watershed Council for decades on our MS4 permit. That is our municipal stormwater permit. Most every other community within the Huron River Watershed also partner with the Huron River Watershed Council. So as part of our permit, we are required to engage in certain educational activities. That's where the Huron River Watershed Council calendars come from, for instance. A lot of the information we share on social media regarding stormwater. Other fun things like that. They also provide monitoring services for our rivers, that's particularly macro and vertebrate surveys that are done several times per year in the river right by the Cross Street Bridge. This is a beneficial partnership for us. It is standard more or less throughout the watershed, and I do recommend that we approve it.
Thanks. Questions, comments, discussion? Yep, I think so. Clerk, please call.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yep.
Mayor Brown,
Yeah.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the discussion of the Carlisle Wortman audit of the planning department.
Council, I trust you've had a moment to look at both the kind of outline of the report as well as the full report itself. I was hoping that you could provide some type of idea of where you envision those departments going. If you want to maintain them, planning and building and code as separate departments, then that's fine. What we'll do is we'll post for the planning department's director, and then we'll move forward with that. However, if you'd like to merge them, it's council's it's at council's pleasure. If they want those departments to be together, it would require an ordinance amendment, and this would make it impossible for someone in administration just to separate them as they see fit. This is a council decision, and council should make this decision. I do sense the one to just maintain them separate, we'll just be hiring another director, kind of put together an org chart of what it looks like.
Thank you.
If we were to merge.
Thanks.
Oh, I was like, we can share, you know.
So if council would so choose to, the code enforcement building and planning would be all managed by a community and economic development director. I've had conversations with the DDA executive committee about completely separating the director out from the administrative services contract, and then that person would have the DDA board would have control over that person completely. That would be, they'd fund their salary and their insurance. Per the recommendation of the report, we would be adding one admin that would be funded half by the city and half by the DDA. That person could take on minutes and really free up the time of the more technical staff members. I've already moved the administrative services manager from the police department. And this individual, upon taking on their normal staff with special events and things of that nature, they would be our new point person for IT, printers, phones. They'll be the faculty liaison that used to be under Christopher's purview. And then they would provide admin backup to both building and the planning department. There'd be two department leads. I have right now the economic development and equity planner as a division manager, and then the building manager would be the division manager of the building department. So essentially I would be removing certain redundancies in positions so I could increase the salary to make it a little bit more competitive with today's market. And hopefully, if council chooses to go this way, I think we would end up saving a little bit of money based on how it's currently structured. Not much, but some. So all I'm asking is if council, I mean, it is late, so if you don't want to make a decision tonight, we can bring it at the next meeting, but I just need some direction to know if you would like to combine those departments or keep them separate. And then if that's decided, I can have a job description developed for the community and economic development director, and then I can get that posted right away.
Councilmember Sweet.
So with this proposal, in regards to headcount, we're adding one FTE as the director, or is there other additional ads? And then the admin?
Well, it would be actually just the admin, but we'd also be removing, so there'd be one economic development director. So that had already been in the budget previously. So essentially we'd be removing the kind of the division lead that was for the planning department. And we'd be adding an admin, half that person. but also removing any salary paid to the DDA director. So that person would be solely focused on the DDA.
And they're already on board with that move.
Yes, I've talked to the DDA board, at least their executive membership, and this is something that they requested. I'm sorry.
It's been an issue.
Yes, it's been an issue. So they know this person is their person, and it kind of removes the optic of a conflict of interest. Right now, I'm technically the director of the DDA because I manage that contract, and then I appoint Elise to that. So it removes that. It makes those two bodies separate structurally, so one can negotiate for one body and the other for another, for the other body. And then essentially the building department would maintain the same FTEs, and they just would be a division lead instead of a director. And this would also minimize directors, which are going to be our highest salary point.
And then is that 0.5 and 0.5 admin? So they have two reports. So they're kind of shuffled because of how they're paid too. So they're,
Well, yeah, they would have half their salary come out of the TIF, and then half coming out of the planning department's salary. And it would also remove the stipends that were always quite confusing.
so we potentially lose some in-house talent, but retain it in form of the DDA.
Correct.
Potentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe.
It would be adding more admin. So we would hopefully free up the more technical positions to focus on what they need to be focusing on.
Sorry, I'm done. That answered all my questions.
You're good. A hand, but then no, Mayor Pro Tem, yes?
I'm just a little confused with this diagram. So basically, we're gonna get rid of that square by recommendation.
No, that's
These are all
that square's
No,
already
the
gone.
planning director
Yeah.
will be, it's not on here. This is the
Yeah.
proposed one.
So
So
essentially,
I'm
you would just
confused
be
with the word director when there's only one director.
correct. The director, the CED director would simply become the planning department director, and then the building manager would become the building department director. So you'd be fusing those two together under one director. And then the code enforcement, which had been separated from the building department at one point, I'm putting back under the building department, as those are employees that should be managed by that person.
It would still have two managers.
There'd be division leads, but only one director.
What it used to be,
A director,
like a mere few months ago, that was split into two directors will now become what it was a mere few months ago. One director. For everything.
But with these different responsibilities
Correct.
underneath that one director.
Yes, and then we
that
would
director
remove.
didn't have the building
Correct.
under them before.
Yeah, so it would be essentially when the former building manager, Frank Daniels, was here. So there would be a separation between those two, but they would report to the same director.
Yes. And DDA is pulled out on its own.
Yes, correct. And then we'd add more admin. So with this plan, essentially, we're adding an admin in planning and DDA, and then an additional backup with the administrative services manager.
And that
as well as removing printers from Bonnie, phones from Elise, IT from Reagan. So it would be taking away those duties that should not be falling under the purview of a director.
And so, so that would be a position that would be added, the admin one.
Just the 0.5 admin would be the only thing that would come out of the.
Oh, just the 0.5. No.
Yeah, we already have the administrative services manager. They just shifted from the police department over here.
And then just so I'm, because when I read this, some other day besides today, it was saying, so then the position that we have, the equity.
Yes, currently and this is just how I envision it, is having the economic development and equity coordinator division lead. She and Elise, the current interim planning director, have been working very closely. So it just seems more of a natural fit since the DDA director would be separated.
I'm sorry, I literally missed what you were saying. What would be a good fit?
So the equity or economic development and equity coordinator has been currently working very closely with the interim planning department director and DDA director. Once that individual becomes separated from the city and would just fall under the DDA umbrella, it would make the most sense to have that person, the equity coordinator, become that department lead.
I see. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's Joe.
That was Christopher. Well, Frank. And yeah. All right.
Oh, is that
not Rose? No, that was Frank.
Well, it's John Rowe
Oh,
currently.
right now, but it used to be Frank when it
It
was.
used to be Frank.
Yeah.
Although we're gonna be, because that's about to be hit in the middle of November to figure, okay, anyway, okay, thanks.
Councilmember Sweet, what you got?
Oh. I have a follow. So I love your proposal. It looks really great. I
love
with Wendy's move. Is the plan then? Are we backfilling an executive secretary for YPD?
Correct. Yes, the YPD is currently interviewing for an executive secretary.
Cool.
All is well. Everything's fine. Everything's fine, guys.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a comment. I love separating the DDA director out.
Yes.
With Pat and Doyle a lot about this. Not to ostracize you or say goodbye, but I think being able to
Dedicated
focus.
person.
I sat through meetings where that previous position was trying to do two things and it didn't go well.
Me too.
And it was. I often thought that it was representing the DDA better than the city, so that's me, but I totally like that separation.
It makes it a little bit more clear as well. And then we would still have that administrative services agreement to provide, the HR, the accounting and payroll, as well as that half person in admin.
It's put people in the very difficult decisions in the past and positions in the past.
Yeah.
Having them combined like that.
It's very difficult. I can't say difficult
Because it's time to go sleep.
to negotiate against yourself.
Exactly. All right, so we're in discussion, but if someone would like to move something on tonight around supporting this recommendation, we can, or we could wait. It's up to y'all. 11:49. Councilman Sweet. What? Don't make me. Do what you want to do.
Well, we're 10
It's
minutes.
11:50. I know. Go ahead. I know. Go ahead.
Motion to extend until 1
Don't
a.m.
that.
Sport.
No.
We don't have to use
All right,
it,
all
but
right,
I don't
all
want to do it in a half
All
hour.
in
when-
favor of it's been moved and supported. All in favor of extending till 1 o'clock.
I
Anybody opposed?
Stop
Move it.
that.
All right. Now, council, Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to move to accept this proposal for the organizational chart, including a single CED director with 2 managers, a building department manager and a planning and equity manager. And separating the DDA director off to be fully funded by the DDA.
Your support?
Or
Oh, great. Further discussion? Hope not. But we can. All right, seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons.
Yes.
6
Yes.
yeses, the motion carries.
Thank you, council. I'll be bringing an ordinance amendment to fuse those 2 departments together.
Thank you very much, Ann. Appreciate it. All right, where are we? Councilmember Tucson, you have resolution 2023-221.
Indeed, I do.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2023-221 resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the proposed regulations for advisory bodies be approved. And I so move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion. Anything? Anyone?
I would like to say something.
Oh, please do.
Just based on some of the comments we had tonight, I feel like it's important to get this on the record that the point of removing the Open Meetings Act requirements was never to obscure things, to obfuscate, to hide in the shadows. It was always to make the commissions more flexible and able to meet more. I'm just going to use my own experience with YPAC. I have been
helping to run their meetings for about 15 months. In that time, they have had multiple meetings that failed to occur due to failing to meet the Open Meetings Act quorum, which they would have occurred if under these guidelines, if they were not subject to the Open Meetings Act. They also had one where a commissioner had to leave early due to an emergency, and the meeting had to immediately end because they were then under quorum. This results in less citizen input and advice for the police instead of more, like people were trying to say. So the point of these regulations was to keep all the public facing parts of the Open Meetings Act, but allow commissions that are struggling to attract and retain commissioners to still meet, still serve their function. I just wanted that to be on the record.
And
thank you.
If I could point out something additionally, advisory bodies did not follow the Open Meetings Act until 2009. A resolution that was passed then. If you look at the regulations here, it does encompass the sunshine ability of the Open Meetings Act without requiring it to meet a certain standard. And if that standard is failed, then those members can be fined. So this is also what protects the members as well.
Councilmember Tucson, you had your hand up.
Oh, and I believe we had at our last meeting, I actually have notes from our last meeting, from October 26th. We discussed the whole removing of the Open Meetings Act. And if I'm not mistaken, what are the well, you said the benefits, but what does it not do? Like it doesn't.
I think the only real consequence is what we saw tonight of some loss of public trust. They hear that an Open Meetings Act is being removed and they assume it means cloak and dagger decisions made behind closed doors. I think it was unfortunate that this fell on tonight's meeting when there was already some perception of that, not to try to mix two different things here, but I think that's, as far as I know, that's the only real con of removing it.
Thank
you. Councilmember Simmons.
So yeah, I appreciate having these regulations pulled together. So thank you for that. And then also just to name, I think that just to your comments, Aaron, that I think that folks had different expectations of what the OMA requires. So around recording, so the commissions have not been, the video recordings have not been put up on our website to this point anyhow. They haven't been required to be recorded in the same way.
They're required to be recorded and maintained for a year after the minutes are approved. We have all the recordings of any meeting. Someone could just bring in a flash drive and say, hey, can we get that? Or we can put it on a Google Drive and send it to them, which we've done many times.
Okay. And so, okay. So then that would be something that would be different.
No, that's exactly the same way we're doing it.
So that would still continue. And then the other question is around the minutes. And one of the things that I know I've shared with folks when they've asked, which is that the OMA doesn't require minutes to have kind of the discussion and all those different kinds of things. And so adding the OMA or removing the OMA does not make that more or less likely. And so it sounds like too, like the process for getting the recordings also doesn't change with this. And so anyhow, so that's helpful because I think it was just like trying to think again, like what is it that we're changing and losing, and what is it we're trying to enable across all of our advisory bodies? I think that this is helpful because it kind of names a lot of those. And maybe the only thing, I don't know if this says the thing about the recordings being available by request of the meetings. I don't remember, but if not,
yeah, it's not in that document, but
so that would be one thing that maybe we can add to that in response to those concerns.
Do we need an amendment for that? To add that for the request of recordings?
You could make it a friendly amendment.
I mean, I'm only friendly.
I think you moved it. Who supported the original? Was it who?
The support for the original was Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, are you okay with a friendly amendment, Mayor? Pro?
Absolutely.
All right, wonderful.
I'd be okay with a hostile.
At this point, yeah. Okay, anything further? Giving Aaron a chance to write it down.
Thank you.
No, no problem.
The friendly amendment is to name that the voice recordings, audio recordings of the meetings are available by request.
Anything further? All right, seeing none, Clerk Smith.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yeah.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
and Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion carries.
Okay. Next is the discussion of youth mini grant applicant. Can I just say, I don't know if I'm well enough to have this conversation, but
And
it's okay.
I think it will be
brief?
It's not gonna be. I don't think it will be that long.
You go, please.
Okay, so we wanted to have a discussion because we had 7 great applicants. We narrowed it down to 3, and we are basically here to request an amendment to the budget to 15,000. I mean, yeah, right?
To,
It's at 10 right now.
Oh, it's at 10. Okay.
Yes.
so to include an additional. Yes.
To
So
give
we
all
can,
3.
so we can give all 3 the maximum amount because we know that they cannot reapply again next year and get it. And we want them to have the same opportunity that every other organization has had in the past.
Is it possible to make that amendment once we bring the applications forward for council to see them? Is that okay? To amend the budget once
we do
see
have,
all 3?
we do have our community reads. She did say that she would come to our next council meeting. But I wasn't able to get in contact with the other 2 applicants.
Council can amend the budget whenever council wants to.
No, so I'm asking the committee
okay.
members, are you all comfortable or okay with once those 3 are brought forward, then we amend the budget as we approve them?
So I just want to double check. So when you're saying bring forward, so just in terms of like, we would just say as opposed to discussion will be like a resolution to fund these 3.
Right. In order
Like we would have to probably, we would have to make a budget amendment first in order to do that.
Right. So what I'm saying is we were not presented with them today. So whenever they're put on the agenda for us to approve them, we could have the budget amendment and then go through and approve them so that we don't have to do that right now.
Yeah. And then would you want, so we had talked about as a group having them come so they can introduce themselves and like answer questions from council. Was that what you?
So I'm gonna say something and then correct me, Mr. Barr or Andrew, if I'm wrong. I think each one would have their own resolution.
You
Or
could
would
do
them
that.
on a slate.
You could do it that way or just on a slate.
But yes, and have them come in if they want to talk. Yeah, come and talk to us. Great. I love it. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. We just wanted to kind of get the sense of that before we ask folks to come. And so that's why we wanted to make sure to bring it forward.
And the only reason why I'm asking about that is just because in the past, there have been some that have not been approved once they've been brought to council. Not saying that's going to happen, but saying once we bring them, we can just do it together. I feel.
Okay. So then we could just know that we'll bring it on our next agenda then. So we should just.
Nope.
Wait, no, this is just a discussion, but then Aaron, did we already tell you that? I can't remember.
I don't believe I have which 3 you were.
Okay, so we should send that to you so that it can be added to the agenda.
Yes, and so your desire is to have them appear at the 21st council meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and the sooner I know, the more likely that we can make that happen.
All right. Is everybody comfortable with this?
Yes.
All right. Awesome sauce. Okay. Council member D Simmons.
Oh, before she reads that, can I amend it to put that sentence in?
No, she has to read it.
Okay.
Did this already
Didn't need to be
happen?
worried by that.
Yeah, yeah, she got it. It has to be put on the table.
Okay. Okay, great.
That
I
happened.
think I moved that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
He'd been sitting there for.
Okay. Okay. Cool. 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 Okay. All right. Whew. It's a long one. My fault.
Council, real quick before, does anyone mind if I let the unneeded staff members leave and I can just take notes for any questions and I can get them back to you tomorrow? Okay.
Let's go home.
Yes.
It's okay.
No, you stay.
You gotta be here, Brian. Have a good night, those of you who are going home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. So it's the time for me to read now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Whew, okay. Resolution affirming Ypsilanti support and solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza. Whereas the city of Ypsilanti stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza, who are currently facing a campaign of ethnic cleansing and collective punishment by the state of Israel. And whereas collective punishment is considered a war crime under international law and refers to a form of sanction imposed on persons or a group of persons in response to a crime committed by one of them or a member of the group. And whereas the state of Israel is engaging in collective punishment against the Palestinian people in Gaza in response to Hamas attacks on Israel. And whereas the collective punishment of the Palestinian people includes shutting off all access to electricity, drinking water, food, and humanitarian aid. And whereas the UN says approximately 2 million people in Gaza may soon run out of drinking water and all medical care. And whereas ethnic cleaning refers to the creation of an ethnically homogeneous geographic area through the elimination of unwanted ethnic groups and by deportation, forcible displacement, or genocide. And whereas Israel is now engaged in an ethnic cleansing campaign by explicitly requiring 2 million Palestinians to leave Gaza immediately or risk being bombed in their homes by the Israeli army. And whereas the Gaza Strip, one of the most densely populated places on earth, has been repeatedly referred to by human rights groups as the world's largest open-air prison, even prior to this conflict. And whereas Gaza is known as the world's largest open-air prison due to ongoing unbearable living conditions imposed by the state of Israel, including a full air, land, and sea blockade, enclosure of its borders by concrete walls and barbed wire fences, and the strict prohibition of Palestinians from leaving and entering the territory freely. And whereas this blockade on Gaza has caused a 42% unemployment rate, while 84% of the population relies on humanitarian aid, 41% of Palestinians have too little food, 60% of Palestinian children are anemic, and the Gazan population cannot count on more than 2 to 4 hours of continuous electrical power a day. And whereas prior to this current water shortage, only 1% of Gaza population has access to safe drinking water, leaving Gaza's population, half of whom are children, increasingly vulnerable to waterborne diseases, infections, and dehydration. And whereas Israel has not allowed many common cancer diagnosis and treatment tools, including PET, CT, and radiotherapy, to enter Gaza since 2007. And whereas the pediatric cancer causes that are typically considered treatable are often fatal in the Gaza Strip as a result of the lack of health care and restrictions on movement. And whereas the state of Israel would not be able to maintain an apartheid regime without enormous military aid provided by the United States every year, thereby also depriving Americans of money for their own urgent needs. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the City of Ypsilanti condemns anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and ethno-nationalism in all its forms. And be it further resolved the city of Ypsilanti urges the Michigan delegation, including Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Senators Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters, and Governor Gretchen Whitmer to support HRES 786, calling for an immediate de-escalation and ceasefire in Israel and occupied Palestine, put forward by fellow Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and others. And be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti calls for an immediate ceasefire and lifting of the siege on Gaza. And be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti calls for the safe return of all hostages held by Hamas and all Palestinians extrajudicially detained by Israel. And finally, be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti advocates for the dignity and safety of residents in every community, regardless of what crimes its leadership may commit, and that peaceful diplomacy is the only way to achieve this safety and dignity. I so move.
Support. It's been moved and supported.
Now, I would like to amend by adding, we are against military aid to Israel.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the amendment? No. Clerk Smith, please call the roll on the amendment.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D. Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
6 yeses, the amendment has been added to the resolution.
Awesome. Thank you. Any discussion from council on this? Okay, so. Oh, we can edit that. It can be edited in, I think. So I do have some comments on this. So when I was thinking of a resolution, one of the pieces and the components that I feel I would love to see in here, I know it's really late, but is about just our community in particular and safety and security of our residents in not only Ypsilanti, but in Washtenaw County. I know that over the past few weeks, many of our elected officials and leaders have had meetings with not only, Muslim and Arab leaders, but also Jewish leaders. And the one thing that is threaded across all of these humans is that folks feel unsafe in general, traversing their neighborhoods, their streets, their schools. And I know that I don't want to the resolution as it stands is robust and talks about what's happening to Palestinians. And I support that. And I also think about our own folks here who are concerned and afraid, and who have been threatened and who have children that they are worried about taking to school or to places of worship or leaving their homes. And one of the things that came out of some of those meetings was a joint letter from our public safety officials, including our department led by Chief Moore, as well as Congresswoman Dingell's office, speaking to that specifically about not only wanting a ceasefire and not only wanting people to be treated as humans, but also letting folks know in our communities that everyone is welcome here, everyone is safe here, everyone should be able to raise their voices and talk about the impact that this is having on our own residents here who in their home here in America also feel that they cannot be safe in Ypsilanti, in Ann Arbor, in Washtenaw County. And so I don't know where that would fit here, but I do want to lift that, I truly believe that all voices, have to be heard, and that we have to also make a statement or say something to everyone in our community about the fact that we do not stand for Islamophobia, for anti-Semitism, as it says in there. But I feel I would have loved to see that part a little bit more robust, because there are folks who literally feel unseen, unheard, and unsafe right here. And I think that's a huge part of this conversation as well. And so I'll just leave that because I did not, it's really late, y'all. I'm sorry, but I didn't see where I could fit that in or put language together, but maybe I can just bring a different resolution to kind of talk about that piece at our next meeting.
Sounds good.
I mean, yeah, I guess I was just gonna say that part that you were talking about could add something there, but I guess it depends on what it was. So if it doesn't seem like it fits there, then
No, I think it would fit. I just haven't I don't have the words, like, you know what I mean, to add it in this moment.
Mhm.
And I would want it to make sense and be clear and be thoughtful and not right now. Anything further from council? All right.
I agree.
Oh, whoa.
I would support that language, but I haven't got it either. So
Yeah, I don't have it. I just can't. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
I will say, I mean, I think that is true. I mean, I did, this is part of why I'm kind of pulling in all those pieces there. I guess I could have said like at home and everywhere. But also, yeah, so I think that makes sense. And that was kind of why I put that there in general, to kind of pull in some of those. I did take out, I will say, like originally it had language and it was like to combat these, and I took that out only because language wise, like talking about peace, and so I don't want to use combat. So so that anyway, so that's why that, and that's why it says condemn instead. But we could talk more about that. I don't know in terms of like what you know, what kind of like extra safety or what that means in that space. And I also have yes, anyway, I have very big concerns about how hate crimes are used too. So like I wouldn't necessarily put that language in there in that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think I have some ideas. But yeah, I don't want to use cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything further? Clerk Smith?
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yep.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
6 yeses, the motion carries as amended.
Where are we? Liaison reports.
German.
I mean, seriously though. Like, sorry. It can be adjourned by 2 members of council or by myself. Are there pressing things that folks have for their reports?
Can I just say something real quick? Katie did. I wasn't waiting, but can I? Okay. Katie did send out a doodle. We were not able to meet for HRC, so I am asking if you are on the HRC committee to please respond to the doodle so we can meet in November. They're gonna rewatch it.
They're gonna rewatch it tomorrow.
Mhm.
All right. I feel you. Any other pressing liaison reports?
For YPAC, I'd like to say that should the OMA be removed, the rules won't take effect until January. So they'll still be for the November meeting and the December meeting.
Because the second reading, we need 30 days.
Oh,
from
okay.
then.
Okay. All right.
And also the next YPAC meeting is next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. right here on the 16th. I hope to see you all there.
All right. Wonderful. Any other pressing liaison reports? Okay. What about pressing proposed business from council members? I'm not even gonna go around the table. I'm just gonna say, use your discretion. Oh my God. What would you like to say? Oh, it's the sleep, Desiree. It's the sleep. I know you want to go to bed, but going on once, going twice.
Oh wait, can I okay.
Yes, go.
I'm sorry.
You can't resist. Do your thing.
I won't do all the things in my notes, I promise. I just want to say the Ipsy Poet Laureate has been released, the position. So Ciata has been working on this. This is for the youth poet laureate. And so just to know it's going around, we want people to know. And I just wanted to bring that forward because everything else can come back next time.
Thank you so kindly.
Mayor, there was a section before.
Communications? Oh, Warma, budget and summary of activities. Hopefully everybody got a chance to review those, but what do you have to say, Aaron?
Bonnie.
It's it, Bonnie. The Warma budget and summary. Is there anything you'd like to tell us? Hey, thank you so much. Wonderful. My only communication is that Aaron, I logged into this thing and it's wonderful actually. So thank you.
Glad you got it.
Yep.
Oh, the new system?
Yeah, it's actually
I actually just figured it out too.
It actually is real good.
I got just a couple things.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. Mhm.
So in the next few months, I want to have a work session regarding facility analysis and then create a strategy for fund balance. And then the most pressing thing is, how do you want to go? You don't have to tell me now, but we got goal sessions coming up and it's a very kind of interesting way that it falls on because goals have to be in by December or even earlier than that. And the city manager won't be seated until the last meeting in December.
Oh.
So it makes it difficult and we have to be done by the first meeting in February.
Wait, our goals are supposed to be in December.
We should have them in December. Yeah.
We should start working on them.
Correct.
Oh.
So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that it could be a little odd.
Okay. All right.
And then I'm done.
Thank you. You know, we're accustomed to a lot right now. So okay. You like send us an email saying that too?
Yep.
Okay. Say can he?
Oh.
Yeah. All right. This is our second opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wants to talk to us, it's our second opportunity for public comment. Don't leave. I'm kidding. Okay. You almost made it. Oh, look, you get a prize for the
So
day.
close. I was so close. Okay, my first one. Who wants some pizza?
Anything else?
Oh yeah, there's two over here. There's some over here. I'm taking a whole one, but Michelle said she's only taking one slice, so
I'm taking okay. It's going home with people.
okay, you'll figure it out. Good. Should I leave more?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm really proud to live in one of the first cities in the US to officially stand in solidarity with Palestinians, lifting the siege. There's lots of really good language in there. Ending US aid to Israel. I'm really proud of that. So thank you all for doing that unanimously. What else? Yeah, I disagree with the Open Meetings Act thing. I mean, like, for instance, like, not to bring up the ethics board, but like, does this mean that like, one person on the ethics board could run a meeting and
ethics board still has the Open Meetings Act attached.
okay, but okay, that's good.
So no.
That's good.
And no.
Are you going to put more people on the ethics board?
We hope so.
Okay. There were some volunteers in the crowd. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Still, I mean, I still think the Open Meetings Act exists for a reason. I know it's only been there since 2009 for the commissions, but still, I don't agree with the framing that it is only public trust that can be eroded by removing it. I think in general, one of the things tonight shows is that there is need for better communication with the public in general. That, I mean, we were talking about bulletin boards years ago, there's it's still a thing. Yeah. Good night.
Thank you so much. Anyone? Amanda, come on down. Come on down.
Is down. You're a little taller than me. Just two things. One, well, maybe more than two, but starting with, I also kind of agree. I'm a little concerned about the Open Meeting Act stuff. I'm interested to see how that's all going to play out. I have some concerns about like what happens if certain groups of people get together and make decisions, and how does that all work? And I'd love for someone to explain that to me. Second thing is that I was disappointed to see at the end of the Avalon CBO today that they are still having to ask for the CBO, because we asked for that at the first one, at the one that I was part of, which was 220 North Park, which was a while ago now. And it was part of our requirement and it still hasn't been fulfilled. So I'm asking you again to please fulfill that requirement, renew the CBO. I think one of the reasons it hasn't been renewed is because people were trying to block it from being used from projects like Avalon, because it's a really great project and they didn't want to block process for an important project like that. But we're still using the CBO, so why not have it be official and do it in a process that makes sense for the community?
Who's using it? Who was blocking it?
I heard a rumor that people were interested in not having it used for that project, not because of any bad reason other than the fact that like it's a really good project and they didn't want it to be
People here?
held back. Anyways, I'm glad it's being used, but put it on the books. There's no reason for us to have to say this defunct rule that we're using anyways. That doesn't make sense to me. And also, I just want to thank you all for your service to the community in these wee hours of the morning.
Oh, Jesse, you got something you want to say? All right, come on down.
Hi, Jesse Miller, Ward 2, live on Oakwood Street, and I have actually been wanting to come down for a while, but you know, as a parent and very busy, it's been hard to, you know, make time for council meetings, and I really respect you all for being here, especially as long as you all have been tonight. But I wanted to thank you all for the work you've done to improve pedestrian and, well, basically non-motorized safety in Ypsilanti. Crossing Hamilton, crossing Huron has been like markedly different. Like as I'm crossing with my kids, that one less lane that I have to usher them across has just made a huge difference. And I use the bike lanes. I used to use them today to get down to Corner Brewery to talk with some folks who are interested in urbanism, and I use them to get here after that. So I just really appreciate the work that you all are doing. I look forward to continuing to make Ypsilanti a more walkable city and really focusing on helping people get around Ypsilanti instead of through. It's a big difference. We don't owe anything to the people who are just trying to get from one side of the city to the other as quickly as possible. We need to get people around the city as easily and as safely as possible. And I appreciate that you all are doing that work. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. All minds clear, all hearts
There's
open.
people on Zoom.
Oh my God. Hey y'all. Sorry. Okay, one sec, everybody.
In the meantime, whoever made this happen for me, thank you.
You know, why not go with a box over here?
I requested. You know the saying, a closed mouth
You know,
does not get fed.
I think my box is empty. It's not. I see 3 people. I think.
Ken, you should have permission to talk.
Okay, Ken Tokar, Adrian, Michigan. In my emails to City Council, one of the things I mentioned was my time with Detroit Public Schools. What I wanted to try and stay away from was the fact that I was hired while the school district was under emergency management. I was hired by Judge Rhodes to serve as a deputy superintendent of operations. And one of the roles was getting school buildings ready for kids for education. And that was a very difficult task. And anything the judge wanted, we were able to get done. I bring this up because tonight you guys used a comparison chart to make a decision on the Mansfield property. Just a couple things that I want to mention. So under forest, you had 3.5 million in construction. Under remediation, you had unknown and high. If you add all the numbers up, that comes up to about $5 million, which is going to have to get added to the Mansfield property, which would put that at $12.5 million. The other thing I would challenge you to ask your DPW or DPS director to document what the 1.5 years and the $4.5 million, what those costs were. When you look at the $3.8 million for Mansfield, get a detailed report from your DPS director. The DPS director in this document has committed to spending $3.7 million in completing this project in 3 months. You guys approved it. So that means that the DPS director has to get this work done in 3 months. Otherwise, the numbers do not mean anything. My concern is that you, along with a lot of other cities and school boards, are put in positions that you should not be put in. These costs should have been communicated a long time ago. And if the person operating these departments did not communicate them until the last minute, what confidence do you have that these items will be completed in 3 months? Good luck.
Thank you. Who's next?
Next, we have Blaine in just a second.
All right. Hello.
Blaine, you looks like you're muted, but you should have permission to talk.
Blaine? Probably.
Blaine, last call. Can you hear us?
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes, this is Blaine Coleman. I thank every member of council. You have saved many lives tonight, most particularly Palestinian lives. And 10,000 Palestinians have just been killed by Israel, and many city councils in the United States, I hope, will follow the example you've set and the example that the Richmond City Council also set, and will pass resolutions like yours that are against military aid to Israel. Again, you have saved many lives tonight. Many, many people are grateful to you. And can you tell me how soon I can read the resolution? Is there going to be some news of the resolution tomorrow?
It'll be drafted and it can be emailed to you if you email one member of council. We can, I don't know.
It's in the packet right now. It's in the packet.
Oh, it's in the packet right now. So you'd be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
there.
Oh, I mean the finished proof where it says, yeah, we approved it.
That'll be in the minutes. So.
Well, the certified resolution will be prepared tomorrow.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I will email council and someone maybe will send me a copy of it back. And again, I thank you. You don't know how many lives you have saved tonight. I can tell you it was many, many. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Anyone else on Zoom? Press raise hand.
All right. Seeing none, unless you want to say something. The meeting's adjourned.
Oh, we could have done 12:30, Steve.
Oh.